think everybody's here. Good evening. Let's have to get ready. Like sit right. Good evening. In compliance with Chapter 551 of the Open Meetings Act of the Texas Government Code as amended, I call to order a meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Austin Independent School District for Monday, March 25th, 2019 at 7:03 p.m. The board may meet in closed session to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, a negotiated contract for a prospective gift or donation to the district, commercial or financial information that the board has received from a business prospect, or offer of a financial or other incentive to a business prospect, deployment or specific occasions for implementation of security personnel or devices, and or to consult with legal counsel regarding pending or contemplated litigation or settlement offer, or on a matter which the school district's legal counsel determines should be confidential in accordance with Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, Sections 551.074, 072, 073, 087, 076, and 071, respectively. We will move to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Having a motion and a second to approve the agenda, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously. Tonight, the students from McBee Elementary School will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the pledge to the Texas flag. Ms. De La Rosa.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Cruz. I am Maggie De La Rosa. I am the proud principal of McBee Elementary. Joining us tonight, we have our very proud parents from McBee Elementary supporting our students. We also have Ms. Yvette Reyes, our assistant principal, and first grade teacher, Ms. Ingrid Myers. We also have joining us are some very special bumblebees that represent from pre-K to fifth grade that will lead us in our pledges.
Hello, I'm Savannah Kennedy, and I'm a student at McBee Elementary, and I'm in fifth grade. Hola, yo soy Savannah Kennedy. Estoy en quinto grado en McBee Elementary. I present to you Cindy Kennedy in first grade, Violet Kennedy in kinder, Santiago Martinez in third grade, and Zitali Martinez in second grade.
Hello, I'm Marfil Rogel in fifth grade. I'm a student at McBee Elementary. Hola, yo soy Marfil Rogel. Soy un estudiante en McBee Elementary. I present to you Paul Rogel, fourth grade, Danica Rodriguez, fourth grade, Javier Rodriguez, first grade, Joaquin Rodriguez, pre-K, Tanya Murigo, first grade.
Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honra a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación ante Dios, único e justicia para todos. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Honra a la bandera de Texas.
Único e indivisible.
Thank you all so much for leading us in the pledge. Will you please come forward so we can meet you? Antes de que se vayan los estudiantes, les queremos dar las gracias a los padres por estar aquí en esta noche y sabemos que tienen que ir a estudiar los estudiantes, so muchísimas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. I just want to recognize the parents of the students and thanking them for being here tonight, but we know that their children have homework tonight, so we're going to let them go out. Gracias. Tonight, we have two recognitions, and we'll begin our evening by recognizing the middle school essay contest winners. Dr. Cruz.
Thank you, President Rodriguez, board members. We have our Associate Superintendent for middle schools, Mr. Raul Moreno, that'll take us through introductions.
Good evening, members of the board, President Rodriguez, Superintendent Cruz. I'm very excited to announce the winners of the My Plan for the Future Opportunity Essay Contest. The essay contest challenged all middle school students to consider their future goals and to develop a plan for middle school, high school, and post-high school. Winners from this year's contest include students from Burnett Middle School, O. Henry Middle School, and small middle schools. Our top winner for this year's My Plan for the Future Opportunity Essay Contest is Dylan Butterfield, a 7th grade student at O. Henry Middle School. Honorable mention winners include Rosie Ramirez, 7th grade student at Burnett Middle School.
We're going to have our students right next to Mr. Moreno, and then we're going to do one big congratulations. We want to make sure we get you on TV, right? So there, you're right there to the left.
Esley Garza, 8th grade student at O. Henry Middle School. Ramona Gonzalez, 7th grade student at Small Middle School.
We want to make sure to see everybody, so let's make a nice line.
And
Side by side line, so we can see everybody on the, there we go. Awesome.
And Eva Moore, 7th grade student at Small Middle School. And here with us tonight to support their students are Marlo Mallett, principal of O. Henry Middle School, and Luke Borders and Del Mann, teachers at O. Henry Middle School. Also here from Burnett Middle School is Principal Marbella de la Rosa and teacher Marcia Baloy. And Assistant Principal of Small Middle School, Mr. Elroy Hendricks.
Thank you. Trustee Ellens, is there a motion to recognize these schools?
Yes, there is. So on behalf of the entire Austin ISD Board of Trustees, it is my honor to recognize the winners of the My Plan for the Future Opportunity Essay Contest. National American University sponsored the essay contest, wherein each student had to give details of where they saw his or herself a dozen years from now in the year 2030. This was a unique opportunity for students prior to high school to consider their future goals and their plans for achieving those goals. These types of partnerships and the student efforts are to be commended. The top winner was Miss Dylan Butterfield, who attends O'Henry. Honorable mention winners included Esley Garza, also from O'Henry, Ramona Gonzalez and Eva Moore from Clint Small, and Rosie Ramirez from Burnett Middle School. Your dedication and hard work have brought honor to O'Henry Small and Burnett Middle Schools and to the Austin Independent School District. So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Having a motion and a second to approve the recognition, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously by all those on the dais. Please come forward so we can meet you and take a picture with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming down. I know that's not easy, but thank you.
We're going to take a picture. That way parents can take pictures. We're going to put you right up front. Yeah, see what happened? Yeah.
Say essay.
We want to thank their parents as well for being with us. Muchísimas gracias a los padres que vinieron ahora en la noche también.
All right.
Next, we'll recognize the National Merit Scholars candidates for U.S. Presidential Scholars and the National Hispanic Scholars. Dr. Cruz.
All right, and then to introduce our students and staff members who are here, we have Associate Superintendent for High Schools, Dr. Craig Shapiro.
Good evening, President Rodriguez, members of the Board of Trustees, and Dr. Cruz. Tonight, I am pleased to present the principals and their students who have performed at exemplary levels of achievement as recognized by the U.S. Department of Education, National Merit Scholarship Program, and the College Board. Students and staff, when you hear your name, please stand. First, Aikens High School Principal Tina Salazar. National Merit Finalist Eric Ingram. National Hispanic Recognition Awards Catherine Ash, Eric Ingram, Amy Ornelas, Robert Sepulveda, and Ivan Zamora. Anderson High School Principal Sammy Harrison. National Merit finalists Danielle Gild, Danielle Gosser, Leah Griffith, Seth Joe, Alias Nichols, Pavel Olaru, Zoe Sneed. National Hispanic recognition, Molly Mangan, Jared Hernandez. Next, the Ann Richards School for Young Women Leaders, Principal Christina Waugh. National Hispanic recognition, Samantha Seaman. Austin High School, Principal Amy Taylor. National Merit finalist, Alexander McGoglin. National Hispanic recognition, Emily Guerra, Kendall Miller, St. John Requejo, Castalia Verdari. Bowie High School, Principal Mark Robinson. Presidential Scholar Candidate, Kendrick Neptune. National Merit finalist, Isaac Hammer. National Hispanic recognition, Julia Aguilar, Camille Arredondo, Sophie Vega, Julia Cabrera, Siana Cherez, Noah Connolly, Aiden Elisor, Carolina Govea, Ashley Holland, Emily Leek, Katerina McLennan, Joel Navarro, Foster Ray, Luciana San Esteban, Karina Volkel. Next, the Liberal Arts and Science Academy, Principal Stacia Crescenzi. Presidential Scholar candidates, Sharia Gupta, Alessandro Loya, Maya Lyles, True Pham, William Slatton, Jacob Wexler. National Merit finalists, Sanjana Alaru, Andrew Bolduc, Sarah Chang, Abigail Daly, Pralid Das, Jessica Ding, Travis Eves, Seth Ellington, Sergio Enrique Flores, Sharia Gupta, Evan Hodgson, Max Irby, Nahal Jerry, Jason Jehudas, Cameron Kleiman, Mihir Kolte, Taka Kutosomitopoulos, Alessandro Loia, Jenny Liu, Lisa Mumau, Emma Moran, Sarida Morejon, Clara Morse, Aidan O'Leary, James Palmer, David Pearsall, Christian Salinas, William Slatton, Manasa Sundong Agunta, Elizabeth Torres Schultz, Charia Torini. The National Merit semifinalist, Maya Lyles. National Hispanic recognition, Elena Alcala, Marcela Aldrete, Catherine Chacon, Anda de la Fuente, Sergio Enrique Flores, Marcel Gonzalez, Dominic Juarez, Elias Little, Alessandro Loya, Andrew Martinez, Shahanin Masurmi, Andrew Maruro, Lucia Melendez, Nathan Moore, Sarita Morejon, Jose Moreno Flores, Joshua Knutson, Aldo Ordonez, Diego Quirojos, Aurora Rochin, Benjamin Ross, Elizabeth Torres Schultz, Benjamin Virapando, Jacob Watson, Jacob Wexler. And finally, from McCallum High School, Principal Michael Garrison, the National Merit finalists, Ian Stripling Jensen, Sophia Reigland, National Hispanic recognition, Javier Cavazos Weems, Marcel Lopez Reed, and Isabel Solis Milam. Congratulations to everybody.
Trustee Letitia Anderson, is there a motion to recognize these schools?
Yes, there is. Tonight, on the behalf of the AISD Board of Trustees, I am proud to recognize the 7 candidates for the Department of Education's U.S. Presidential Scholars, 43 National Merit finalists, 1 National Merit semifinalist, and 57 College Board National Hispanic Scholars. 10 students are recognized for 2 or more awards. These recognitions are amongst the most distinguished honors a high school student can achieve and reflect outstanding academic accomplishments. Candidates for the U.S. Presidential Scholars are selected by the U.S. Department of Education based on SAT or ACT test performance and high academic achievement. National merit finalists and semifinalists are selected based on SAT performance, high academic achievement, volunteer participation, and teacher recommendations. National Hispanic Scholars are selected based on SAT performance and high academic achievement. We commend and congratulate these students, their families, and their teachers for this honor. Every student recognized this evening shows bright promise, and we wish you the best in your future endeavors at college and in the career you pursue. So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Trustee Tice has seconded the motion. Having a motion and a second to approve the recognition, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously by all those on the dais. If you could please come forward so we can meet you, shake your hand, and then I think what we're going to do is have the trustees come in here and try to fill in this space to take a picture. And let's see if we can fill it. We can see if everybody fits.
Okay, everybody has their angle?
No.
Okay, we're gonna do it on the count of three. Best smiles. You're gonna look right in the middle. One, two, three. Keep smiling, please.
Cheese.
All right, now everyone smile at your parents, your We've got about 3 more seconds. Put on rapid flash mode. 1. And
Yay. Congratulations. Congratulations again to all the students, and thank you parents for being here tonight as well. We really appreciate y'all as well. Thank y'all.
President Rodriguez?
Yes. Yes. Trustee Matthias.
Thank you, President Rodriguez. If I might enjoy a quick moment of personal privilege for one additional recognition. The Mexican American School Boards Association recently hosted its annual conference, and we know that our district is a member of MASBA, the Mexican American School Boards Association. They wanted to recognize our board for being a member of MASBA for 5 or more consecutive years. So Trustee Anderson is modeling the award that they had asked us to share with the board. As Héroes de MASBA, Heroes of MASBA. We want to thank the board for its continued support of MASBA and its mission of closing gaps, especially for the Latino students and English language learners of our public schools. To thank all those who support us, including our friends from Walsh, Gallegos, Trevino, Russo, and Kyle, and so many others. So a round of applause for the Board of Trustees. So we really, really appreciate your support of MASBA.
Thank you.
And if I might,
Thank you.
while we were at the MASBA conference, the theme this year was Superhéroes for kids, superheroes for kids, and all of the speakers were caricatured as Latino superheroes. We were fortunate to have our superintendent, Dr. Cruz, attend that conference and serve as a panelist for our Talas Superintendent's panel. For those of us who remember the Hanna-Barbera Super Friends series, Dr. Cruz was portrayed as the Latino superhero Eduardo Dorado, El Dorado.
Do you have a picture
And so our
of
friends
that?
at MASBA
Yes,
asked
he
us to
does.
share this with our superintendent as well, a superhero for kids.
Thank you very much, Trustee Matthias. I also like that you shaved off about 50 pounds, so, and about 20 years. So, yeah, I like it.
Thank
Gave
you,
me some
Trustee.
muscles, too.
The board will now move to public comment. This is the time we dedicate ourselves to welcoming and encouraging public comments during our regular board meeting and to commit ourselves to active listening. Board members wish they could engage in a conversation with speakers on matters of concern and interest to the speaker that is not part of tonight's agenda, but in accordance with Section 551.042A of the Texas Government Code Legal, board members may only make a statement of specific factual information or recite existing policy in response to an inquiry, propose that the subject be placed on a future agenda, or ask that the speaker visit with staff about the issue. After the completion of public comment, trustees may request from the superintendent additional information, clarification, and/or follow-up based upon comments provided by any one or more speakers. Please also know that there are additional ways to communicate with the board, including emailing the board directly at trustees@austinisd.org. In order to provide as many opportunities for input as possible within a limited time period at this meeting, each speaker will be allotted 2 minutes with a maximum of 30 speakers allowed. Speakers may sign up by phone or in person. No substitutions or yielding of time to others is permitted. As you come to the microphone, there's a device that will light up as you move through your 2 minutes of allotted time. When the buzzer sounds, please make a final thought in one sentence. We ask that whether you come to give a complaint or praise, that you reference the staff member by position or by abbreviated last name. We ask that all audience members, whether speaking or not, please show respect for others at all times. Should you wish to offer additional written remarks that are not bound by time, please give them to the AISD officer on duty. Each board member and superintendent will be provided with a copy. The Office of Translation and Interpretation provides a Spanish language translator for audience members who need assistance when addressing trustees or need assistance understanding comments made to trustees during public comment. If you need this service during other portions of the meeting, please speak with the interpreter. Jennifer Williams, Spanish translator and interpreter, will repeat this message in Spanish.
La Oficina de Traducción e Interpretación proporciona un intérprete al español para las personas en la audiencia que necesitan ayuda al comunicarse con los miembros de la mesa directiva o si necesitan ayuda para entender los comentarios que se están haciendo a los miembros de la mesa directiva durante el tiempo dedicado para los comentarios públicos. Si necesita este servicio, por favor hable con la intérprete servidora Jennifer Williams.
Gracias, Jennifer. Our first speaker tonight is Ken Zarefis, and then Dusty Harshman, and then Brian Register, then followed by Adrian Arroyo and Barbara Tenbrink. Ken.
Good evening. Good evening, Dr. Cruz, board. My name's Ken Zarefis. I'm president of Education Austin, the employees union for AISD. And I'm here to say, pause. Just pause. Behind me tonight are a number of people out of the academics department that are being reorged, some out of a job, some to lower pay. They were told this back in December, but when they asked questions and asked for meetings, they were denied. Upon 2 denials, they came to us and asked us questions. We requested a meeting and were denied. And until we pushed on it, it didn't happen. And then it happened about 2 weeks ago on a Monday. And on that Monday, people were brought in for a 45-minute PowerPoint with about a 10-15-minute discussion afterwards. And there was no time to discuss concerns. And they were told tomorrow it starts. This is an SEL district. And until we understand how SEL actually impacts grown-ups in this district, this will never be the district that we envision it to be. They had questions. They were dismissed. They went to a meeting that they weren't listened to. These people are a brave group of people that are standing up tonight. There's so much confusion around this reorg. No one's been able to articulate it. As a matter of fact, the statement was, we have no vision for the reorg at the meeting. I was there and heard it. We have no vision. Then why in the world would we reorg something? Why would we do that and impact people, their lives, people that will leave this job and this district? And I promise you that is happening as we speak. We're said that it's economics. We can save $1.4 million. You want to know how to save $1.4 million? Start standing up against charters. Start saying that charters aren't the way to go. And instead of a newspaper article talking about how charters are waiting for 10,000 kids, why don't we make a firm statement that says AISD is the place to be? There are things we can save money on instead on the backs of people that are not deserving of this treatment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, trustees and superintendent, for the privilege of public comment. I come before you again as an AISD parent and a member of a nascent group called Integrated Schools Austin. As you may remember, we joined you last month to help us reimagine AISD's reinvention roadmap, an equitable future that balances the enrollment in our schools, more truly reinventing the urban school experience together as a well-integrated district. Real school integration is not our mother's desegregation. Bringing students from different backgrounds together begrudgingly by court mandate, it's not crosstown busing. Modern school integration provides universal access to opportunities. It checks privilege. shares power, respects and responds to many cultures in our schools. In short, it understands equity, and it works. I provided 13 studied and peer-reviewed benefits to socioeconomic and racial school integration, from increased test scores to dropout prevention to closing achievement gaps to improved critical thinking and creativity. Sounds a lot like Austin ISD's strategic scorecard. And again, we ask, what if our reinvention roadmap included real school integration as a guiding principle, judiciously using school consolidations across all regions of our city to facilitate balanced school enrollment? What if these consolidations considered equity by affecting no more than 53% of students of economic disadvantage, AISD's socioeconomic average? Would that in turn facilitate better integrated schools? This is not far-fetched, but a possible future for our district that supports its long-term health. Other districts are taking this on, and we can too. I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Press the green thing. Oh, hey, I'm Brian. I'm here for the school renaming thing. It's been a fun couple of years with this conversation, right? Everybody has really consistently enjoyed everything about it. But hey, at least we got to screw up our own conversation. Representative Biderman and Senator Fallon at the Capitol would prefer that we not have the opportunity to have a conversation at all. So there's SB 226, proposed by Senator Fallon, and HB 2648 proposed by Representative Biderman would end this conversation and essentially block all future school name changes because they think that they know better than AISD how AISD should make its decisions. I would like to encourage you to get in touch with relevant legislators and try to put a pause on those, and I hope that everybody else will do the same thing. So I've given y'all, once in the past, I gave y'all my racial history task force idea. I've just given you 8 steps to changing a name. They seemed pretty straightforward to me, but I laid them out for you there. Just for fun, I gave you some of Sidney Leanier's poetry and an article that is partly about him, giving a sense for how he was taken up and interpreted by Southern nationalists. So the article's a little over 100 years old. It's an historical artifact. He was sort of the poster boy for the alleged cultural excellence of plantation society. But now the main task here is not necessarily to change the name of this school. It certainly is not to change it to Lanier, as though that solved a problem. The main task is to educate. The students in these schools do not have a deep understanding of who Sidney Lanier was, why he was taken up as a cultural figure, why it is that the school was named after him. Getting them to know that is the more important and pressing issue. So, obviously I've been hollering about this an awful lot. I certainly hope that you will not take the sort of easy way out and give the school just Lanier. Diana Castaneda seems like a lovely woman. I personally would pull for Juan Navarro. Let's get into the school and let's actually educate the students about our racial history in Austin. Thank you.
Adrian Arroyo.
Good evening, esteemed board members, district staff, and community members. Thank you for providing this opportunity. I'm in my 15th year in AISD and my 8th year as a secondary science specialist. This is the first time I've addressed the board. A pause on the academics SEL reorganization plan has the potential to increase benefits while reducing costs. I believe that significant costs are being overlooked and that these costs shift the cost-benefit balance enough to warrant re-examination. Tonight, I have chosen to highlight the experience costs, but I hope you will also read the letter I emailed you. I am a member of the science team. Before the reorganization began, our team was the most experienced and cohesive of the core content teams based on the number of years of district-level campus support service and the number of years we've worked together in our current capacity. We have been told that a key focus of the new specialist positions will be coaching. As an experienced instructional coach, I know that effective coaching starts with a relationship of trust, relies on an understanding of the teacher's daily life, is informed by knowledge of campus expectations and culture, which vary widely across campuses and grade bands. No workshop, book, or degree can build these skills. They require on-the-job experience. Uncertainty around reorganization, which started before winter break, has already cost Austin ISD 8 years of district-level campus support experience. Austin ISD will lose an additional 18.5 years of experience by the end of June. These are losses that a pause actually cannot reverse and that are not a direct result of changes to the organizational structure. This is collateral damage, and it is not limited to the science team. The math and ELA teams have incurred similar losses. Whether Austin ISD gets to keep the remaining 45 years of district-level campus support from our team depends on how the rest of this process plays out. It is far from guaranteed that a pause will retain this experience, but it's the best shot we have. Giving the current teams a chance to enact the new vision without a reorganization will not only honor our hard-won experience, but will help maintain the quality of support to campuses and students during this transition. Leveraging existing team structures and campus relationships even has the potential to make the transition faster and more effective. The work of Austin ISD is done by people, not organizational charts or job descriptions. It is still possible to avoid unnecessary costs while improving the end result. I hope you will join me in advocating for a pause.
Thank you,
so that we
Adrian.
can continue to reinvent the urban school experience together.
Thank you. Barbara Penbrick, Charlie Gutierrez, Vincent Tovar, Rebecca Harshman.
I told her to go back.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. I'm Dr. Barbara Tenbrink. I have a PhD from the STEM Center at the University of Texas in Austin. Yet I've been told 3 times in my tenure at AISD that I do not have a job. Stop it. Stop firing everybody. How is it better that people stop working, to stop earning, to draw from retirement than contribute to it, to pull from welfare than contribute to the GNP? We're the people. We're the people. We're the people of the United States of America, the people of Texas, the same ones who have families and mortgages. And last week we mowed our lawns and volunteered at the PTA carnival. Who are you to say we are surplus, deadwood, trivial, superfluous to whom? We were good employees, loyal, motivated. Not now, we're riffed. We're reduced from the force. The force of what? Of your coercion? Of labeling us? Of fault finding? Of blame? Blaming us for what? But we weren't, we didn't. Some had hours of leave accumulated, childcare after school arranged. We formed neighborhood watch for safety. Not now, we're riffed. We're the riff-raff you ridiculed. You played your games, you counted your numbers, you vowed to rid. Did I not follow the right party? Did I leave the storm debris along the curb too long? What makes me less a member than you? The riff eliminated us, the reduction reduced us, removed my morale, shook my core, lessened me in my own eyes. Who are you? Why am I less?
Thank you. Charlie, please.
Hello, my name is Charlie Gutierrez. This is my 31st year in serving AISD as a teacher, instructional coach, academic dean, science specialist, and currently as the administrative supervisor for science. I'd like to speak about the reorganization of the Department of Academics and SEL. I understand that the district is facing financial difficulties and declining enrollment and that staffing cuts may be necessary. In response, our leadership in academics and SEL chose to reorganize some, but not all departments. Math, science, language arts, social studies, and creative learning initiative were chosen to take almost all of the staffing cuts. Part of the reorganization is to combine math and science teams into a single STEM department and language arts and social studies into a humanities department. Supervisors of these teams were not included in any planning for the reorganization and were not informed of the department mergers until after our budgets had been submitted. Everyone on these teams, including supervisors and administrative assistants, is losing their current position and will have to reapply for fewer positions. 21 math and science positions are being reduced to 13, with 5 at reduced pay. This cutback has already eroded the morale and trust on our teams. My fear is that needed services that support teachers and students will be greatly affected through the loss of talent, relationships, and institutional knowledge. The math and science teams are highly productive and always support district initiatives. This X on our conference t-shirts, that stands for all district initiatives. That's what it's for. And I'm sure that the other teams that are affected by this feel just as strongly about the importance of their work. I believe that the stated goals of the reorganization can be achieved through simple directives from our leadership with just a few organizational changes. I respectfully ask that the reorganization be ceased until input is gathered from all affected teams and concrete steps are taken to develop inclusive, equitable, and transparent systems for addressing future cuts. It is not too late to stop and reassess this situation.
Thank you. Vincent Tovar, and then Rebecca Harshman, and then Roxanne Evans.
Hello, my name is Vincent Tovar. I'm a parent at Go Valley in Fulmore, and I'm here because I'm privy to a lot of truths from the Lanier community of staff, students, parents, and alumni who don't feel like they're heard and are too tired and frustrated at this point to want to show up to a meeting because really right now they have more pressing needs and they just want to chop off the first name and say, let's just symbolically do that and keep our identity. I agree with the speaker who spoke earlier about we need an education piece. Absolutely. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. And it shouldn't just be with the students. We have decades of alumni who we need to engage as well, and staff and parents who were our alumni who sent their kids to that school who may be a sophomore now and want to graduate with that school as Lanier. That's what their parents want. And so what the work that needs to be done so often isn't done. It just isn't done. It's too hard to do. It takes too long. But we got to hurry up and change that name, right? Well, that hard work is the triage that we experience in our predominantly Title I Black and brown schools. That is the hard work that doesn't happen, and that's why we're constantly in triage. So now people are saying, so we'll change the name completely, and then we'll do the education piece. Well, how is Reagan reacting to that now? They're saying, we don't want that. You won. It's running a victory lap at our school with an article. We don't want that. And that's the thing. That's the reality. And it's hard. I get it. I'm not saying that Lanier wasn't a monster, wasn't horrible. All I'm saying is that it hasn't happened. And so what the perception is going to be, the district and the board is going to impose its will once again on a Black and brown community like it always has. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, esteemed trustees and Superintendent Cruz, for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Rebecca Harshman, and I'm a freshman in AISD. Last month, I shared my experience in a well-integrated elementary school versus my experience at fairly segregated magnet schools. I wanted to share what some students in Austin are doing to guide change. We are called Integrate AISD, and we are following the footsteps of a group of students in New York City called Integrate NYC. They work together to find real integration. Integrate NYC defines it in 5 R's: race and enrollment, resources, relationships, restorative justice, and representation of school faculty. I've provided more details for you in this handout. Their work has greatly influenced Mayor Bill de Blasio's effort to integrate NYC public schools. So far, students at Aikens, Austin High, LASA, LBJ, and McCallum have stepped forward to help continue this conversation. The interest of students is rising, and we believe that this district should be equally interested. We look forward to continuing this conversation with you in upcoming months. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. President Rodriguez, trustees, Dr. Cruz. My name is Roxanne Evans of the East Austin Coalition for Quality Education. I've served on a number of AISD committees over the years, including most recently the School Renaming Task Force. And I am here tonight to urge the board to remove the name of Sidney Lanier from Lanier High School. And I'd like to put this issue into the broader context of white supremacy. 400 years since slavery, the slavery of men, women, and children, was introduced into this country, there is a resurgence of white supremacy at the highest levels of our government. White supremacy was at the heart of the Confederacy, and it later resulted in segregation at all levels, including school segregation, which we still experience today. Now, at the local level, one of the ways we see white supremacy manifest itself is in what is referred to as the achievement gap. It's not a gap, it's a chasm. Students of color need the kinds of supports to be successful as any other student in the district. The insidiousness of white supremacy is that it doesn't just affect people like me, it affects all of us. Let me share a quote from one of my favorite political commentators from the Washington Post. "We pretend that white supremacy is not suffused in our national DNA. The status quo, our collective inability to acknowledge our ugly past, continues to corrode our present and hobble our future. Trustees, let's not pay homage to white supremacy any longer. Change the name, which is relatively easy, then let's have the more difficult conversations about changing the outcome for students of color in this district." Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ramon Maldonado, and then Jasmine Baker, and then Emily Sawyer, Laura May. Mr. Maldonado? Is that?
Good evening, Board. My name is Ramon Maldonado, PTA member of Zavala Elementary. I wanted to speak to you about closures to schools. You know, I've been listening to your meetings at 11 o'clock at night. I've seen your disagreements and some of your stories of what you've done. Well, you know, I mean, we have the same thing too. Like these teachers behind us, I mean, they have families too. Like one of your members said that he grew up in South Texas and had problems and watching leaders, and he wanted to find out. Well, you're talking about me. Well, you're talking about me too, and my kids and my children, you know. But what Zavala is doing is we're going to the communities, and we're talking to the communities. We're sending out flyers out there. We're going out there and meet with them. What my thing when I see you, and then look at stuff in the paper, like this stuff, you know, it just seems that you already made up your minds about closing our school. Those two communities really need that school, because some of them kids went to a charter school. Then we see them back in our school, and our teachers are really helping them. Like the guy back here said about these teachers, at our school, they're about 100 years of education. You know, they know it, all those teachers combined. And I've been asking for meetings. Because I come down here and I ask for a piece of paper of you guys so I could get the parents something, and I get the police on me. Then I try to get District 6 a meeting with him, and District 2 that I didn't get a hold of him, but I got on the phone numbers is to call the superintendent's office, and then I asked, how can I get a meeting with the superintendent? But go to the website. I don't know nothing about the website. My grandson does. I thought they could. Well, I've run out of time, but you know, it's just really terrible what y'all do. District 1, got a tape for you.
Thank you, Mr. Maldonado. Jasmine Baker, and then Emily Sawyer, Laura May.
I don't know where Jasmine is.
I'm sorry?
I don't see Jasmine, so.
Okay, so you, yeah, go ahead.
next. Okay.
Yeah.
Good evening, Superintendent Cruz and trustees. My name is Emily Sawyer, and I am an AISD parent with students at Blanton and Martin. What will successful reinvention look like? Saving money, some modernized facilities, nice talking points on our press releases? Or will we reinvent our ideas about what education can and should be? Dr. Christopher Emden calls us to interrogate this truth, that we maintain deficit views of certain students instead of seeing the deficits in ourselves and what we can imagine and believe is possible. The deficit is in our systems and the ways they dehumanize certain people, not in the people who are struggling against that dehumanization. We have somehow become convinced that equity means having everyone pass tests. But when my 4th grader doesn't have science class because no science star in 4th grade, and my 7th grader goes to a school without an art teacher this year, but with constant testing, how can we call anything equitable? Will we reinvent our commitment to equity so that we don't just move students around to create the look of diversity, but instead we actually create environments with shared and equal power to decide how resources get spent, to decide what counts as knowledge, to participate in the fundamental design of education? Instead of just integrating students, can we imagine what it would mean to integrate equal opportunities into every campus? Equal educational excellence, equal availability of bathroom stall doors and roofs that don't leak. Will we reinvent the narratives and processes that have always kept up the status quo? We can rename schools and hire equity officers even in the midst of an austerity budget, but these will be nothing more than signifiers of useless progressive ideals if we don't prioritize communities and stop making decisions for them. Ideologically, I think all schools should be renamed for people of color or places, but my belief in that concept does not outweigh any given community's right to their own values, autonomy, and humanity. There is hard work to be done in gaining the trust of historically underserved, oppressed communities that cannot be hurried up or glossed over. Engagement will only succeed if that engagement is genuine. Needs assessments and true prioritization of the communities and schools who have historically been overlooked, the voices that we willfully and repeatedly ignore. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Laura, and then after Laura is Carol Ayala. Carla Ayala, so.
Hi, is it not started? Is it on? Am I going? Okay, sorry.
You can start.
I've been working at Lanier High School for 13 years, and I love my campus. I love my students. I'm here today because I believe in quality and inclusive education, and I know that our students have not been afforded that education that they rightly deserve with regard to the name change. Our students and staff have still not received a campus-wide presentation, workshop, lesson, nothing comprehensive about the true history of how the name was chosen for this campus by the all-whites anti-integration school board of the 1960s. As a campus, we are still in the dark. People don't want to talk about it. There is no conversation. Some teachers have chosen to provide some of their own insight in their own way, which I respect, but that has created a lot of inconsistency and confusion for our students. I would also like to point out that this is my place of employment. This is where I work, and I'm also a person of color. I am also directly impacted and affected by the traditions, culture, and practice that we have created at Lanier. And I don't appreciate that these traditions, cultures, and practices choose to minimize and ignore the way white supremacy and institutional racism have affected all of us. We have never been given the opportunity to have a true and safe conversation about racism and white supremacy and how all of us are complicit. The name Lanier, even with Sydney removed, still represents white supremacy. In fact, keeping this relic of our racist past continues to normalize white supremacy here in the present, as white supremacy continues to be a lethal concern for people of color. It's a wider issue. It's worldwide. 50 people were killed in New Zealand just like a couple weeks ago in the name of white supremacy. So we need to change the name. We need to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carol Ayala, and I'm a former teacher of this district. I resigned after being trained under the Welcoming Schools teacher program at Odom Elementary. I co-founded Concerned Parents of Austin, now Texas, because of the district's decision to bring in welcoming schools without parental notification or consent. I'd like to address the parents of our Hispanics tonight. The majority of the students in this school district, well over 40,000 students. I am asking them to opt out of the sex ed program this year that will be happening after the testing, as it does every year. And the reason right now, tonight, I'd like to share with you is because of the National Education Sex Standards. The district requires that all sex ed meet the National Sex Ed Education Standards that has been cleverly named to make it sound like the U.S. government created the standards, when actually they were published by the Future of Sex Education, or FOSSE, a partnership between Advocates for Youth, Answer Sex Ed, Honestly, and SECUS, all LGBT advocacy groups. Now, I want to tell you about what their values are. It boils down to this, that sexual intercourse for teens is fine and good so long as teens feel ready to have sex. All three organizations behind the National Sex Ed Standards aggressively promote abortion and radical sexual rights for children and youth, and are all intricately intertwined with Planned Parenthood. The SHAC board members and the activists who have worked together for the past several months to ram these radical changes cleverly orchestrated this process, but they cannot force you, parents, to allow your children to sit in the classes. Fill out the opt-out forms that the district provides, or to use ours that are online at www.concernedparentsoftexas.com, or write your own and teach your children your values. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is J.C. Sanders, and then Jared Breckenridge, Jennifer Houghton, and then Larry Nelson.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Cruz and trustees. My name is J.C. Sanders. I'm an elementary math specialist here at Austin ISD. And I've only been in this position for less than 2 years. And I'm very sad and disappointed to find out that I very likely will have to move on to another position or district. It saddens me because I really love my job and the work that I do each and every day. I'm very impressed with the district's forward thinking and its drive to re-innovate the urban school experience. However, the recent turn of events to redesign the academic side of teaching and learning department has been a true slap in the face. The district I was so proud to work for and have my own children attend school at has gone behind closed doors and made sweeping decisions with little to no impact in our department. I was informed that I would have to reapply for the position because cuts were being made and reorganization was going to happen. This information was given to us by our direct supervisor, not by the people making the decision, and was told to us the day before we left for winter break. When we returned, no new information was provided about the reorganization. When rumors began to circulate, we were told to stay quiet and not discuss the matter. We all had to wait until early March when, after many requests, the Associate Superintendent of Teaching and Learning finally met with her own department to tell us in person about this reorganization. She gave us about an hour of her time and left very little time for questions. The fact that this department needs reorganization is not what disappoints me or disrespects my work. It's in the matter of how this reorganization was rolled out and handled by the 1, 2, maybe 3 people who concocted it. It appears to me that all decisions regarding this new department were made behind closed doors. No one's expertise, point of view, work was taken into consideration. Besides completely leaving out our staff of the department to help make this decision, principals, supervisors, teachers, parents, and students were also shut out of this decision that impacts their life and education. I ask that you allow for us to be a part of this redesign. Thank you.
Thank you. Jared Breckenridge.
Thank you. Hello. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. I'm not disappointed at you guys per se, or at least 9 of you guys per se, but I'm disappointed. Austin Independent School District, as a former student myself, has participated in institutional racism. Whether you guys want to admit it or not, you have, okay? Now is the time for each and every one of you guys to make the necessary steps to start trying to fix it. Obviously, something's wrong. Our students are leaving the district at high rates, and it's not any chance that it's going to start increasing rapidly within the next few years. Something's wrong, okay? As I told you, I'm a former student of AISD, so when I give you my statements, take it for the truth. Also, I want to bring in some data, right? Let's bring in data. AISD, according to the TEA website, is failing our black and brown students. I want to know what do we plan on doing to fix this? This is not just, it hasn't just started yesterday. It's been going on, okay? It's been going on. Our black and brown students, African American, Hispanics, are sitting at 30 and 40% on all subjects, all grade levels, at target for knowing what they're supposed to know, right? However, let's look at the white and the Asian students. What are they doing? 70 to 90%. What's going on? We're at 30 to 40%, but they're at 70 to 90%, all across the board. It doesn't stop there. You guys also have been discriminating against teachers of color. You look at your staff on the TEA website, right? TEA website, I'm not done yet, hold up. You guys have a total of 5,700 teachers in the district, right? However, only 300 of those are African Americans. 5,000 teachers, only 300 of them are African American. Why are our students failing? Possibly because of the demographics of the teachers. Thank you. Change the names of the schools.
Thank you.
Hello, Dr. Cruz and school board members. My name is Jennifer Houghton. I'm very nervous. I've worked as a math curriculum specialist for 13 years, including with Dr. Cruz in the school's office. And I'm here to discuss the reorganization. I'm confused about the purpose of the reorg and the drastic cuts made strictly to the people that are working directly with teachers, students, and campus leadership to improve achievement. Because of these cuts, an increased workload will occur. Few people that will get the same pay. Others will get a significant pay cut decrease, and still others of us will have no job. While we are fighting to maintain our standard of living, those selected for new leaderships will receive a major pay increase. I have many concerns about what we've been told and the process in which we were told. The following are areas of concern. Number one, the lack of clear vision. We were told that with basically people with the same jobs did not have to reapply. Yet when the job descriptions came out, we're effectively doing the same job. What are we reapplying for if the job description is the same? If we have to reapply, is that considered termination? Why isn't on-the-job experience with AISD or years of dedication no longer valued as in the other three reorganizations that I've been through? Number two, math and science departments will be the most dramatically impacted by the reorg and have the most cuts. How would drastically cutting campus support in these areas affect our students and teachers? Mathematics is an integral path for students' success for college and career readiness, a key point that Dr. Cruz deems very important for our district. Number three, the lack of professionalism by our leadership. As a veteran employee, this has made me question my years of dedication to AISD. The leadership has created an emotionally stressful work environment that is not conducive to productivity. As one of the oldest, over 40, actually way over 40, and most experienced members of the team, and because I'm paid at a higher end, I fear that age discrimination can easily take place. I fear that because I'm speaking today, I will be retaliated against by leadership. I fear that strictly my most important thing, that cutting the people that work directly with teachers, students, and campus leadership is not best for our students that we care about. How are we living the values of ASD Cares and SEL? That's what our department's supposed to be about if we're treating employees like this. I ask that you use your influence to stop this reorganization, at least until next year. Let us have a voice. Let the people with experience speak. We have lots of ideas of how this possibly could occur and could help that vision. But getting rid of people that are the ones that really affect those changes, I don't think that's the answer. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Nicole. Larry Nelson, and then Suzanne Kearns, and then Manuel Munoz.
Good evening. Is it? Okay. Good evening. My name's Larry Nelson. I'm going to speak about something rather controversial. The following does not comply with Texas Code 28.004 or Austin ISD's board policy manual. The new sex ed program does not devote more attention to abstinence. Austin ISD is not providing a written notice to every parent on whether they will provide human sexual instructions. The new sex ed program does not ensure local community values, nor does it assign appropriate grade levels. How is it that this new sex ed program is grade appropriate when little, innocent, impressionable children will be taught that they can change their gender as multiple genders, when children will be taught vaginal intercourse, oral and anal sex, masturbation, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender lifestyle? I've talked to many parents with children about this program, and 100% of them so far are totally against it. As a matter of fact, they become angry. What happened to integrity? What happened to ethics? Isn't it the Board of Trustees' ultimate responsibility to protect the health, welfare, and safety of the child? So why aren't you doing it? What happened to the moral compass? Based off what I see, this new sex ed program is agenda-driven, and the board has overstepped their authority. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne Kearns.
Hello, Superintendent Cruz, President Rodriguez, and trustees. My name is Suzanne Kearns, and I'm the parent of 2 AISD students, and I'm also here speaking on behalf of over 1,100 members of the Informed Parents of Austin, a group dedicated to advocating for equality and inclusion for LGBTQ students, families, and staff in AISD. I've spoken at pretty much every meeting in the past year about all the reasons I personally support comprehensive science-based sex ed for AISD students. And tonight I would like to take the opportunity to thank each and every one of you for your yes votes on the proposed scope and sequence for the revised human sexuality and responsibility curriculum. I am not overstating it when I say that you will be saving lives and changing lives. You will be preventing unintended pregnancies and STDs, and also preventing sexual abuse. LGBTQ students will feel more understood and safer in their schools because of you. Thank you. To further build on this welcoming and inclusive environment, we'd like to get a step ahead of AISD's Pride Week. Last year, we had a particular issue at my daughter's middle school where it was canceled because of the complaints of some parents, and I would hate to see that happen again. Some things we would love to see from the board are a public district-wide statement of support of Pride Week that principals can point parents to if they complain about Pride Week activities in their schools, a minimum participation level, expectations set by the district to ensure that even if schools have a GSA that's not as active or maybe not ready to be up and running by October, can still participate, a defined and well-communicated week for Pride Week instead of just a week in October so people can plan a little more around it, a district GSA point person to aid in communication between schools so they can share best practices with kids who are new to organizing and simply don't know what they don't know about putting together activities, and that part of the funds collected as part of the PAC rental of Celebration Church should be made available to GSAs for materials for Pride Week and other activities throughout the year. We'd love to know if there's someone that we could meet with to further discuss these items and to make sure everything's in place for October. Thank you.
Manuel Munoz, Larry Amato, and then Thomas Perkins. Ms. Munoz.
How's everyone doing today? Manuel Munoz. I'm spending another night here trying to persuade you guys to follow through with the request from the community. So I'm going to read an open letter that we published on Facebook earlier. In just a few days, Sergeant Juan Navarro, an alumni of Lanier High School in the Rumber community, would have celebrated his 30th birthday. Unfortunately, he is no longer with us, and the Austin Independent School District has an amazing opportunity to honor one of its own graduates, a model in a community traumatized by the school-to-prison pipeline throughout the 2000s. The decision that each Austin School Board trustee makes today in renaming Lanier will set a precedent over the mutual respect expected by the said trustees and the Latinx community, which continues to enroll in charter schools at unprecedented levels as a result of the lack of trust that exists in Austin's public school system. What has become a year endeavor for LULACers in Austin, we were not at all surprised by how much folks want to continue having their practices of systematic oppression control people of color. Look no further than the first Lanier CIC meeting that was held at 4 p.m. before Lanier students are released from classes, before community members, parents, alumni, and even more, and most are even released from work, and the slap in the face to the working class community. To walk into the meeting 30 minutes late from the just hours notification that we received hours before, and hear the CIC debating on keeping Lanier as a name even after instructions from AISD headquarters made it clear that the intent of the renaming process was to completely rid any and all remnants of Confederate supporters who made it clear that they believe that they are the supreme race. Members actually hovered over half an hour on having Lanier students spend a day on a way to pronounce Lanier in a different way to honor a French poet, another white person, not even from the Austin community. Now, Austin LULAC made the initial announcement in early 2018 to support an effort to rename the Lanier campus after Sergeant Juan Pantoja Navarro, a 2007 Lanier High School graduate. Now, I know the biggest issue is the background check, and so we believe that as a U.S. Armed Forces member, that he exceeds the background checks because, as it is, Austin ISD has been known for hiring pedophiles, child molesters. And so for you guys to cast aspersions on his character, a member of the armed services, is completely despicable. So tonight, do not make the wrong decision because we will hold you all accountable for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Larry Amato, Thomas Perkins. Oh, Larry. Okay, and then Thomas Perkins, and then Naomi Wilson.
Good evening, Board of AISD, Mr. President, and also Mr. Superintendent. I'm here in advance of an annual ceremony that we have every year at Johnston High School. This is to honor the veterans that died for our country, for Austin, for Johnston, for Texas, for our country as well. These are students that went to Johnston that were proud of Johnston. They were part of Johnston. Johnston was them, they were Johnston, just like East Austin is Johnston and Johnston is East Austin. We never thought about the name before Johnston. As you can see, the 80s people that came in from West Austin, North Austin, South Austin, those had a J. They always said, hey, let's go down to the J. The name was something that united all of us. To take away that heritage we have is something that would do away with our students who died for our country. And that's why we like to honor our students. We've done this for about 8 years now in a row. We want to continue doing that. We want to invite the board members to come out and see why it is that Johnston means so much to us. And these veterans, their sacrifices, the families that come to honor them, the friends, the neighborhood that comes out to honor them. all for Johnson. I know that the other schools also have veterans. They have their attachment to their schools as well. And I do want to mention that I feel sad for the students and alumni at Reagan High School. They were our rivals. They were the state champions in sports. We all looked up to Reagan. Lanier as well. I had friends that went to Lanier. And the other schools, Austin, Crockett, Bowie, all those that had namesakes that we do not honor. And those people, Reagan and Lanier, want to do away with those names as well. But they want to keep their heritage, and that Reagan and Lanier. That's it.
Thank you. Thomas Perkins, and then Naomi Wilson, and then Candace Ayler.
Good evening, representatives. I appreciate the time and your public service and your willingness to be accountable in formats like this one. I'm here to advocate for 6th grade and elementary school. I understand there's a budget task force that has made a recommendation of unilaterally moving 6th grade to middle school. And in my opinion, choice is always philosophically important. It's really important in a consideration like this. One of the options I understand that might be available to you is to look at 6th grade as a choice option, similar to what we have with magnets and academies and two-way dual language. Choice is especially important, I think, as it relates to 6th graders. When we talk about 12-year-olds, it's a very developmentally diverse age. We see a wide variance in cognitive abilities and social skills and everything else. There are numerous studies about this, and I can send this to you in an email later on, but two that I wanted to cite is one, that 6th graders in middle school have more behavioral problems than their peers in elementary school. There was a study done by students in North Carolina by Duke University's Terry Sanford Institute of Public Policy, and the study showed that 6th graders attending elementary school were less likely to have discipline problems than their middle school counterparts, and moreover, the discrepancy in middle discipline problems continued throughout the 8th and 9th grades, and that the study showed that disciplinary problems correspond with low academic achievement. And there was another study done as part of the Duke study, showed that 6th graders in elementary school test higher than those in middle school. And according to school superintendent Paul Vallis, the study showed that 6th graders in elementary schools perform better on standardized tests than those in middle schools. And in response, Philadelphia actually is reducing the number of middle schools from 46 to 8 and placing 6th graders in elementary schools. So I realize this is a budget decision, and I want you to think about this not just in terms of a cost, but also as an investment, that there may be unintended costs and consequences down the line as a result of this decision. And so again, want to advocate for 6th grade as a choice option to keep that in elementary schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Naomi Wilson.
Naomi's not here tonight.
Okay. So Candace Ayler, and then Raul Daniels and Medina Willis after.
Good evening, trustees. My name is Candace Ayler, and as you know, I am the self-ordained minister. I'm also a former parent in AISD and former member of the District Advisory Council. It's officially no longer a joke that I'm the pastor of the Anti-Fascism Non-Christian Church and Minister of Justice. I actually spoke at the Texas Senate State Affairs Committee today in that capacity. And I originally created that because of the rental of AISD property by Celebration Church, as y'all know. That's an evangelical extremist group out of Georgetown. But it's just odd that I'm now have gone to the, it came from Austin that I created something so ridiculous. But I digress. So I wanted to give y'all an update. Apparently my job is to give y'all a monthly update of protests because it's not ending. And so we won't be ending the protests anytime soon, I don't believe, because we are having a pretty significant impact. The numbers of attendees at Celebration continue to be very low, and that greatly impacts their efforts, and that's what we're there to do. Yesterday was our 31st week of sustained protest of celebration at, thank you. Now, I do want to let you know that as a part of those protests, one of our participants was almost hit by a car recently. The AISD officers did not yell at the driver who was illegally driving into a driveway and almost hit a pedestrian. He yelled at the person that was with the protest. The officers are clearly there to protect the people at the church and not us. I would just ask that the focus that y'all have should be on protecting us, but I would also ask, as I have every month, Dr. Cruz, you made promises in August that the monies that you would get from this rental would be spent on certain things, on training and on the LGBTQIA students of this district. We have asked repeatedly for a report on what you are spending that money on. I know other trustees have asked at board meetings for that, so we would appreciate if you would please publicly make a statement about where that money is going. Thank you.
Thank you. The last three speakers are Raul Daniels, Medina Willis, and Kaziki Prince.
Good evening, Board and Superintendent. I earlier left a package of material for each one of you to be reviewed at a later time. 15 years ago, a group of coaches and sports administrators took up the challenge to reinvent the urban school experience. We created an equal opportunity sports initiative called City Ball. Not only were we going to provide free sports to AISD students, but we had alternative aims. Some of those aims were closing the achievement gaps between ethnic minorities. The others were to narrow the differing inequalities between neighborhoods. We also wanted to promote diversity in sports and communities, and also extend the school day with positive activities. There are several similar initiatives around the country. There's ones in New York, Atlanta, San Antonio, and several smaller ones in other cities. The recent confluence of several things enables us to achieve this. There's MLS soccer that was announced with the stadium coming on board in 2021. There's also a second team that began this month. Also, rugby union began in Round Rock at the Dell Diamond. This has brought increased media attention and more potential corporate donors to the scene. We decided last year to approach AISD directly with our program, having gotten a potential donor list, collaborated with a general contractor for site upgrades, and negotiated minimum pricing based on quantity discounts. AISD's actions to date has been nothing short of bureaucratic apathy. All the work we've done to create a free program, free to the kids, clashes with the priorities of pricey contracts to be outsourced. Since you're the highest level of decision makers within the AISD hierarchy, we ask that you review the information and at least give us a chance to present what we've taken many years to accomplish. Thank you very much, and look forward to meeting with you some later date.
Thank you. Medina Willis.
Good evening. I am Medina Willis, and I have been teaching at Lanier High School for 10 years now. I've never been one for public speaking until Lanier students, my students, they're also your students, came to me and they said that they felt like they weren't being heard and that the name was more important than their safety, their privacy, and the actual needs of the students and the staff. Remember, this name change is a district-initiated priority, and it was not initiated by the campus nor the community. There are real issues and needs like working locks, doors on the bathroom stalls, doors that are all over the school that have graffiti, unfiltered water fountains, unsafe athletic fields, lack of space and privacy, no money for supplies or for departments. So for 9 years, I've watched this. I've also watched various requests be put in for repairs that have been deleted or closed or delayed or pending for some exuberant amount of time. Yet since this name change process started, miraculously, people show up to fix the things that we've had wrong for 9 years and probably much longer than that. So are they being addressed in the name of equity or the 6 C's or because of FabPack? No, it's because the redheaded stepchild Lanier finally spoke up. Or it's time for a press release or another photo opportunity. We have been Lanier High School for 58 years, ever since it was supposedly named with racist intentions. However, Sidley Lanier is not the school. The school is the people who walk the halls, those who teach and learn in classes, as well as the community that stands behind the students and the teachers. It's also the students and the teachers who honor themselves and their community by exhibiting pride, respect, and responsibility. We are Lanier. So I ask that you listen to the staff, the students, and the community, and all those that are being affected by this decision, and to support the decision to change Sidley Lanier High School to Lanier Earledge College High. We earned that distinction. Thank you.
Thank you. Kaziki.
How you guys doing today? It's good to see you, President Rodriguez, trustees, Dr. Cruz. My name is Kazike Prince. I'm not here representing the mayor's office, but I am representing the chair as chair of the East Austin Coalition for Quality Education. And to really support the name change, I want to say, number one, thank you for the work that you guys put in to change some of the names of some of the schools that we've had up to this point. That's hard work. One of the things I'm reminded of is how hard this work around equity is. It's not easy. It's a lot of heavy lifting. It's a lot of involvement of the community. But, you know, as a member of the school renaming task force, also the budget stabilization task force, what's revealed to me in those small windows of opportunity is how hard your jobs are. And so one of the things I want to do today was just to come here representing the coalition to encourage you to continue this hard work to change the name of not just Lanier, but other schools that you've already changed at this point. Because I think what this conversation has done is really, as was said by the last speaker, has really encouraged us to make some other important changes. This is not just about one name change. This is about how do we make a community thrive in ways that they haven't been able to thrive because they've been so ignored for such a long time. And so this name change is just a conversation about how do we make schools in Austin serve the needs of all our students. I am a child of a formerly segregated school, Keeling Junior High. I'm the father of 2 graduates of McCallum High School, so I'm here standing with you as someone who's very proud of what the school district has had to accomplish and been accomplishing, but I also see that there's so much more work to be done, and I appreciate the opportunity to just speak with you about this important issue, but also encourage you to do what I think is the right thing to do for our community, to help us stop having this conversation about name changes and do some of the other big work that needs to be done for this school district. And so thank you for your time. Take care.
There was one name that wasn't up, was it Jasmine Baker, and just want to make sure and give them one other opportunity if they're here. If they're not, we will conclude the public comments. And trustees, any questions or clarifications regarding public comments? Trustee Tice.
I have several comments. First of all, I'm extremely proud of the educators who came forward to speak tonight. I am in solidarity with you. I don't understand why you're here and having to say this when we are a district that says we are collaborative with our staff and that we are an SEL district. So Dr. Cruz, I'm extremely concerned. I had already sent about a month ago questions about this reorganization of academics. I'm extremely concerned about it. I'm very concerned that these educators here were not included, nor were any other educators or parents or students for that matter in the reorg. I will be watching to see and will be offering to all of you, if there's any retaliation at all, please let me know. This district, by the way, Dr. Cruz, is not about retaliation. And if there is any retaliation, I want to know about it. So I'm going to echo the concern and to request that there be a pause on this whole process. Academics is our core business, and everybody knows that. And so when academics is being messed with, I get very concerned. Secondly, I want to thank Ms. Harshman for coming forward and letting us know about the AISD student group working on integration. Very excited to hear about Aikens, McCallum, Austin High, LBJ, and LASA students being involved. And I'm hoping that Lanier, Crockett, Travis, Eastside, all the other high schools that were not named can also be included in that conversation. I think that's a very productive conversation, and I've always found that talking with our students, our student leaders, has always provided insights and problem solving that often adults don't even think about. So I appreciate her being here. Third, I'd appreciate it knowing from Mr. Amaro at some point the date and time of the Johnston High School celebration. If you would get that information to our board secretary, I would love to attend. Fourth, the sixth grade concerns. The board hasn't moved on anything regarding the BSTF recommendations, so I'm going to ask our press once more to please don't jump the gun on that. It makes our work even more difficult when the press decides that we've already decided something and we haven't. I'm very concerned about the concern raised by Ms. Ayler that our AISD PD don't appear not to be protecting all people at the protest, and I would love to know the details around that, and I would like that looked into. Everybody should be protected at that protest. That's an equity issue. Also, I'm very concerned about hearing about City Ball and that they've been stymied about what they've proposed here, which just at first blush looks excellent, and it's free, and I don't know why our bureaucracy has stymied their request, so I would love that looked into also. I believe that's all. Thank you.
Trustee Mathias?
I would be happy to, following up on comments by Ms. Kern, to know if there's a possibility of a district statement on support of Pride Week, or where we are as a district with that. I think that that's an issue that's dear to the hearts of many. It's in line with our values as a district and as a city. And also the comments of Ms. Ayler on public statement of monies raised by the rental of our Performing Arts Center. I think that that's probably a question that various persons in the community have. If there's some way for us to find an appropriate way to be able to communicate out. It seemed that when Ms. Ayler was speaking, we were seeing some nodding of heads on the dais, so for us to be able to share the good news in that respect. And finally, there was one person who suggested that he might be trying to get a hold of this trustee. My cell number is public information. Happy to welcome a call from anyone who has concerns.
Trustees, any other? Trustee Singh, I'm sorry. Trustee Wagner, Trustee Singh.
Well, first off, to Ms. Kearns, since you are a District 7 resident, you asked who you could speak to about your concerns about GSAs and Pride Week. I'd be more than happy to have a coffee, have a conversation about some ways to start to build more momentum around those efforts. So you're welcome to reach out anytime. And I did want to ask Dr. Cruz, I do appreciate the information that the board has been provided about the academics department reorganization. I do, however, have some questions that I'd like to better understand, and those are really regarding the timing, why this timing is happening in the middle of a school year where we could potentially have gaps in academic supports for our teachers and campuses. I'd also like to understand the communications and rollout and why it's been conducted the way it has been to staff. And last, I would like to understand the philosophical decision of eliminating all jobs and having an application process to reapply for positions as opposed to what one of our speakers said tonight, looking at performance and tenure, which should be clear records that we have for longstanding employees to be able to adequately assess. So I would appreciate understanding more about the approach there.
Trustee Singh.
I wanted to revisit with the name changes. I know that when the board voted for the name changes last February, the district set up a fund where people could donate to a fund basically to help pay for the name changes. And given all of the pressure right now in our district with the budget, it would be nice to resurrect that and publicize that widely, so that we can get the community and people who really care about this to help support that cost if possible. The second point is, one person today spoke that they had a student at a school that did not have an art teacher. So I just wanted to know if we had a list of, I'm assuming it's an elementary school. Oh, was it a middle school? Okay, maybe it was a middle school. But regardless, I would love to know if we have a list of schools and which ones do and don't have special areas teachers, so that we can get that big picture, because that definitely is an equity issue. Want to make sure that all students have access to the fine arts. The other thing, I want to second everything that Trustee Wagner just said about the process. I have the exact same questions with the academic reorg. Would love to hear an update on that. And on a more positive note, I want to just mention that this Friday is going to be the very first Cesar Chavez Dolores Huerta Day in Austin ISD. Thank you, Trustee Mathias, for getting that ball rolling. And there's information on it on the website. But there's going to be, let's see, I can tell you a little bit what's going to happen. This is going to be on March 29th, and this is to honor the lives and legacies of two Hispanic civil rights leaders who formed the United Farm Workers Union in the 1960s to protest the poor treatment of laborers. And there will be opportunities in the schools providing lessons on these two leaders. And there will also be a free education screening of the Cesar Chavez movie at 11:15. Where's that going to be?
I think it's here.
Oh, right here. Okay, on Friday. So hope to see some of you there. Thank you.
Trustee Ellens.
Thank you for bringing that to everyone's attentions. I would just like, can we get an update on, there have been rumblings that perhaps there is a district-wide decision about 6th grade. And so could we just get an update of what is happening in that conversation?
Yes.
Thank you.
Trustees, any other questions? Yeah, Trustee Anderson.
Not really a question, just a concern on the reorg. I myself would like to know what is the vision? What are you looking to accomplish in this reorg? So just concerns.
Thank you, trustees. Any other questions or clarifications? If not, thank you very much. We will now move to the consent agenda. Are there any consent items that trustees would like to pull for a separate vote? Trustee Singh?
Not exactly for a separate vote, but I just wanted to point out, I believe it was agenda item 8.1, the MOU with United Way, that there was a small, a one-word correction that was made and agreed to by both parties. So it is different from what is on the website currently, so I just wanted to bring that up.
And just for specific clarification, just to be transparent, they think they're changing the word proceeding to the word following.
Yes.
In the document, right?
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is, yes, Trustee Anderson?
I would like to pull 10.2. I would like to give the new director coming in of SPED the opportunity to weigh in on the software.
So is there a second for pulling item 10.2? Trustee Singh seconds it. Okay, so we'll pull that one. Any others? So Secretary Ellens, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? And if you just clarify the items that we're approving.
Sure, and I also would like to, well, I'll do this first. Motion to approve items 8.1 as corrected through items 10.1, items 10.3 through items 12.2.
Okay, is there a second? Is there discussion on these consent items? So, Trustee Anderson. Okay, so having a motion and a second, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously. So now for the items that were pulled from the consent agenda, which was item 10.2. Do I have a motion to approve consent agenda item 10.2?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion on 10.2? Trustee Anderson?
So I know the new SPED director, I believe is supposed to come May 1st. Is that correct, Dr. Cruz? So I just want to give her an opportunity to review the software and, you know, give her feedback on it.
Let me ask Dr. Goodnow. We're pointing to somebody. As far as Dr. Goodnow and Nicole Conley then to come up and to see the impact if we hold this item until our Executive Director of Special Education is on board to review the item. I think that's the question before us, and I want to make sure that if there's an implication to holding off on this, just, you know, what that would be potentially.
Good evening, trustees. Nicole Conley, Chief of Business and Operations. We've been looking into this software at least for 6 months to a year. It won't be an issue to delay it. This is really to optimize our Medicaid billing system. It has less to do with the delivery of services, special ed, but the tracking and claiming for reimbursements as we work for specialized services. This is a fairly well-known product. I can't imagine that she's not aware of such issues, but this is something that's been brought forward by finance so that we can optimize the billing and reimbursements for Medicaid. We collect about $22 million a year. We think that there's potential revenue that we're leaving on the table because we don't have an integrated software that ties the billing and reimbursement to the actual point of service. And so I'm not quite sure if it's, I mean, it is an implementation. She may have some feedback on that, but again, I would compel us to sort of try to automate as much as we can the services so that we can optimize our billing and reimbursement more efficiently and maybe pick up some dollars that we potentially leaving on the table.
I think that we could, I don't think that there's any contractual implications for delaying for a month and getting her input. I do know that there are also other features of the program that will greatly benefit our scheduling and how we serve students and reports that we can pull. So it's a very robust program. We have visited about it briefly, but not in any detail, not in great depth yet.
Okay. So if there's no objection from the administration, I think we want to, do you want to pull down that motion and then we'll just schedule it for another meeting? Is that?
Correct. So we'd have the discussion with our new executive director, have her input and give any type of guidance as far as her experiences with it. Because again, this would not, and just as an assurance, it would not impact student services, special needs students and their services in any way. This is more about the reimbursement of the services that they receive. Okay. And we can bring it back then for next month.
So Trustee Anderson, I just want to make sure that you're withdrawing the motion.
My position stands. I'm still saying I would like to wait till the new director comes in. That's my position.
Right. So then, if what I'm interpreting that to say is that you're withdrawing the motion, and that way you can hold it. Oh, who made the?
Trustee Wagner made the motion to approve it. Or who made the motion?
No, it was.
I have it down as Letitia, and then RD is the second.
Yeah, it was Trustee. It was.
Trustee Wagner just made the motion to approve it, and I
No.
seconded.
No.
I'm a great secretary.
No. Trustee Mathias, did you have a?
You know what, it was and then Amber second.
Yeah.
Trustee Tice, did you make the motion?
To approve this item.
See, from.
To approve this item. It was, I seconded. Someone beat me to it.
I have
So I have it down as Trustee Anderson. Yeah.
To pull it, but then when you brought it up, you said, is there a motion for item 10.2? And someone from that end said,
I think I have it down as Amber made a motion to approve the consent agenda item. So let's pause for here for a second. So Trustee Anderson, I think what you've heard from the superintendent administration is they do want to hold it.
Okay.
And so therefore we withdraw your motion and then we'll have it scheduled for another time to meet the request that you've made.
perfect.
Okay? All right, so we're clear on that. Since we don't have any other consent items, we're down to the separate votes. Yeah, Oscar, did we do that right? I just want to make sure we're,
There's a motion on the floor.
Right.
so the motion, there was a motion on the floor. We seconded the motion, and then during the discussion, Trustee Anderson, Letitia Anderson asked for a pause to be taken on that particular vote until the new special ed director goes through. The administration agreed to that, so therefore I asked for the motion to be withdrawn. And is that the appropriate?
Yes, sir. It is. This is Oscar Trevino. It is appropriate for the originator of the motion to withdraw.
You just have to push the button on the mic there. Sorry.
Well, typically you would also seek the consent of the person who seconded the motion to see whether they're in agreement with the withdrawal.
Terry, do you have the notes on who was the second?
Amber was the second. I thought Ann made the motion.
No, she didn't. So, that was to pull the motion, right? Okay. So why don't I do this right? So just because you heard that, so Trustee Teich and Trustee Wagner, are you okay with withdrawing the motion and Trustee Ellens? Okay, so now.
That should take care of it.
Okay. Oh, withdrawing the motion. Which will then, the motion to approve the consent item 10.2 tonight.
I personally don't think it needs
Mr.
to be
Rodriguez,
withdrawn, but
essentially,
that's-
the motion dies if no one claims the motion, but because it was seconded, I think it would be appropriate to make sure that the person who seconded, which I've understood, is in agreement with that withdrawal. And so I think the issue, I think, dies for lack of a motion.
Okay, great, thank you. Are we? Okay, so.
I wasn't the one to second it, though, so I.
Oh, Trustee Ellens did, yeah. Okay, so now, Secretary Ellens, do I have a motion to approve consent agenda items 13.1 and 13.2?
So the administration has also requested that we pull item 13.2, as the city has requested more time to review, and they plan to bring that back in April as well. So my motion would be to approve item 13.1.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Tice seconds. Is there any discussion on this item? Okay, having a motion and a second, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously. Oh, I'm sorry.
She's abstaining.
Oh, I'm sorry. Having a motion and a second, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. High. Okay, all those against, all those abstaining. So the motion passes 8, 4, and 1, and showing Trustee Wagner abstaining. Thank you. So Secretary Ellens, do I have a motion to approve consent items 13.3 and 4? 13.4.
So I can make the motion, though I can't. Okay.
Trustee Mathias.
Sure, happy to move approval of agenda items 13.3 and 13.4.
Second.
There's a second by trustee Taish. Is there just any discussion on these items? Okay, having a motion and a second, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, all those abstaining. The motion passes 8-0 and showing trustee Allen's abstaining. Okay, so under the superintendent's report, we have 2 items. The first item is on the dual language program. Dr. Cruz.
Thank you, President Rodriguez and board members. I'll ask Dr. Kaufman to come forward for our presentation. There's Dr. Kaufman. One thing the board had asked, and I do appreciate Trustee Singh talking about Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta, what we're going to do as a district, and that's coming from Trustee Matthias saying this is something that we should be doing and advocating for as a district and supporting all of our communities. What the board had also asked is let's put out the good work that's actually going on that our teachers, our principals, and our students do every single day. And so one of the programs that we chose to highlight in this time is around dual language. Este programa es muy importante porque los estudiantes aprenden inglés y también otro idioma. Y es algo que es algo bueno. La mesa directiva quiere que nosotros presentamos los programas que tenemos en todas las escuelas o muchas escuelas que queremos más. So with that said, what the board has said is to let's highlight some of the programs that we have in our school system and get to know a little bit about it. What is it about? What does it represent? And what does it actually mean for our students? Because at the end of the day, that's what we all want, to make a positive impact on our students. We've made so many positive strides, but we know we're not there. We have so much more work to do. But nonetheless, we have this area of dual language that I wanted to make sure to highlight as something that's positive for us, and we need to keep working in this direction. So Dr. Kaufman.
Thank you, Dr. Cruz, President Rodriguez, members of the board. I would like to open with 5th grade dual language student Alejandra of Lance Corporal Nicholas S. Pettis Elementary School, reading her award-winning entry from the Trail of Lights essay contest. Students were asked to imagine they have a superpower and describe how they would use that power.
I already have a superpower. It is the power of bilingualism. I can help everyone learn a different language so they can experience what it's like to know 2 languages. They can teach the world to speak another language. Being bilingual is more than just a word. It's how you express yourself. Being bilingual is a blessing that I have, and I am lucky to have had this superpower since I could first talk. I feel very powerful because I use Spanish to help others. It is not just a word, it's who you are and where you come from. I also support my Spanish-speaking family when they don't understand English. I have the power to translate. They have the power to show me mis raíces. Being bilingual helps me understand what others are feeling. If you're bilingual, you have to use your knowledge when you're a teacher, doctor, or just to help your community. Sometimes people who are bilingual are shy to express who they really are. Sometimes they feel ashamed because they speak more than one language. But they don't know that being bilingual is a superpower, and it will help them grow and develop into an awesome and great human. Bilingualism will open the doors to a path that is fabulous. Thanks to my parents, I'm bilingual and I love it. Mi nombre es Alejandra González Reyes y soy de la Escuela Pérez Elemental.
So our dual language participants, like Alejandra, know firsthand the power of speaking more than one language. Extensive research demonstrates the cognitive, academic, economic, social, and even health benefits of being multilingual. 3 years ago, AISD renamed and reorganized the Department of ELS, calling it AISD Multilingual Education and pulling in world languages and refugee family support. This change supported the belief that all AISD students should have the opportunity to become multilingual, a goal the AISD Dual Language Program makes possible. AISD Dual Language programs are at 44 elementary, 11 middle school, and 2 high schools, serving over 12,000 students, including almost 1,800 whose home language is English. Of all of our bilingual ESL programs authorized under Chapter 89 of the Texas Administrative Code, only dual language has the goal of students developing academic proficiency in 2 or more languages. Dual language reflects the belief that bilingual programs must be additive, not subtractive, by honoring and continuing development of the language students speak at home while simultaneously teaching an additional language, rather than transitioning from the home language to English only. Dual language reflects the belief that bilingual programs must provide enrichment, not remediation. Students, regardless of background, have the capability to learn 2 or more languages and do not need to wait until high school to start. Dual language reflects the belief that bilingual programs must be assets-based, not deficit-based. Speaking a language other than English is not a defect or a problem. It is a first step on the path toward multilingualism. As with all ambitious academic programs, AISD dual language programs require continued effort and investments to effectively implement. Recent progress includes launching 4 school-wide two-way dual language programs where every student participates. I'd like to share a comment that highlights AISD's efforts to provide two-way dual language to students in East Austin. Ms. Nancy Reynolds, the first grade English partner teacher in the two-way dual language program at Pecan Springs, says, "I've been teaching 24 years. 22 of those I've had the pleasure to be a part of the Pecan Springs community. I have seen bilingual programming in our communities all those years. This is the 3rd year that dual language has included both English learners and Spanish learners at our campus. However, this is the 1st year that I have been a direct part of dual language. I have seen a marked difference in my students this year. The dual language program has helped the English speaker to read almost 2 grade levels above grade level, and I attribute that to them using both sides of their brain. The science and social studies with literacy integration has given students exposure to such rich Spanish vocabulary. During my English instruction, I have been able to go more in depth, and the focus on productive language has really helped my students improve in math as well. This is the highest I have ever seen first grade students. I have been impressed with the integration of both English learner and Spanish learner students in one classroom and see that they are more accepting and inclusive with each other. You walk into either my classroom or my partner teacher's classroom, and you can't tell the Spanish-speaking students from the English. The students are learning in one language and can process and produce the content in both. I have enjoyed seeing the simultaneous growth and successes in both languages. But I would like to turn the voice back over to the voices of the people most directly involved in our dual language program, the students, parents, and teachers.
I am in kindergarten. I'm in 4th grade.
I've been in dual language program since kindergarten.
I can speak Mandarin, English, Spanish, and sign language. When you speak in different languages, you're gonna learn more and you're gonna understand more.
And it's an amazing opportunity. It works so well. I've learned so many things in the program, and it's really helped me a lot in other classes as well.
I think it makes me smarter because I can talk to more people than just the people that live here. The dual language program teaches kids the culture of Vietnam and the language.
I'm going into the engineering field, probably the electrical engineering of sides, and being bilingual in the engineering field is a big advantage. Being able to work with different people, being able to communicate much more.
I really want to go to somewhere like China or Taiwan so I can practice and see how good my Mandarin is there.
What I liked a lot is when they talked to us about the 3 goals the district has. That the children can develop their English and Spanish, writing, reading, speaking well. Also, another of the goals they talked about is the children achieve a high academic level. And third, they appreciate cultural diversity.
I want you to ask you to believe in the program, because it's a wonderful thing for your child. You will be providing a big opportunity for your child in the future. And second of all, because that strengthens your family and our communities, knowing our language and our traditions, and that should be very important for all of us.
I encourage you to put your children in the dual language program when the school provides that opportunity. It is something wonderful to speak 2 languages.
What that means is sure I may. What's Riley? I do Riley. I can't say I go to Riley, so I said I do Riley. Tên tôi là Kathy Pham Vu. Tôi học trong lớp 4. Tôi đi trường Summit Elementary.
Hola, mi nombre es Jonathan Moreno Cedillo. Fui a Blazer, fui a Paredes y ahora estoy aquí en la prepa en Aikens.
Me llamo Juana Martínez.
Martínez y vengo de la escuela Yeye Pico.
I am in kindergarten. I'm in 4th grade.
All right, we had a little glitch on the video at the end there, but you heard the voices even though you continued seeing Ms. Springer's face. So with that, I just want to leave it on a high note of our students and our teachers and our parents participating in the program and turn it back over to Dr. Cruz.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kaufman. As one of the students, as a parent mentioned, that it's not just about bilingual, it's about being bilingual, biliterate, and bicultural. It is about respect for the culture. That's extremely important than just say, can you speak another language? You also made, and we were very intentional about this, is multiple languages. So it's very natural for a student to speak English and another language. What a great opportunity it would be for every single one of our graduates walking across the stage to speak 2 or more languages. Here's the fun part. Nobody says we have to do it. We just know that it's probably better for our kids. There isn't anybody who says it has to, but us. And I think that's important. That's an important value statement from our organization, from our school district. But you hear it in the words of our students, of our parents, and our teachers. And when you look at this, and I've been having these experiences through the Adelante conference, and Alejandra is the one who read her essay when she spoke, you come into a different mindset, very different from one's lived experience when that was not the thing to do. All the things we've talked about in this situation is about language. There is no other language, but there's one. And there's going to act a certain way, and that's it. Now to come in, and it was Adelante conference that has been put on by Dr. Kaufman, AISD, our teacher organization, our University of Texas, and our teachers. It's a teacher-led conference. And to come in to actually celebrate it, not hide it, not be apologetic, just say, this is the right thing for our kids. And parents choose and students choose. And I just think it's a wonderful representation of our value system because it's about being bilingual, biliterate, and bicultural. It will not work if it's only one and not the two. It will not work if it's only 2 and not the 3. I commend this board for continuing the investment in dual language, supporting language instruction. We have our group that we meet. Trustee Singh was one of those for our dual language when everyone is saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And let me give you the 100 reasons why you shouldn't. We had Trustee Singh, which is coming in just for it as a mom, right? Just saying, I think it's really great and you really should. And we get all the pushback. You know, it is what it is. Everyone's not going to come along. But once you start seeing this in students and in parents, and then they say, you hear it from them in their own words, it's very powerful. And I do commend the board and our leadership team, our teachers, our principals, and our students for continuing the focus and the investment around language and language acquisition. That concludes our presentation. Thank you, Dr. Kaufman.
Thank you. And I just want to take a moment to introduce Mr. Alejandro Góngora, who's our Assistant Director for Elementary and leads our efforts with our elementary dual language. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here as well. Thank you so much.
Yes, gracias. Trustee Taish.
Thank you, Dr. Kaufman and your staff. I know you work endlessly and tirelessly to make sure that this program works well for our students. Just want to highlight for our listening audience that we are going to celebrate our middle schools who are involved in the dual language program in 2 celebrations at the Blanton Museum. Graciously, that space has been donated by the University of Texas. So and I don't think this is open to the public, but I want you to know about this, that we do celebrate these students. Is it open to the public? No. Not enough room, but I'm lucky. I get to go to it, and I hope other trustees will attend. On Monday, April the 15th, we'll do the dual language of the North Schools, and those include Burnett Middle School, Covington, Lamar, Small, and Webb. And on Monday, April 22nd, we'll celebrate the South Schools. That would be Blanton, Bedichek, Fulmore, and Paredes. So I hope that we recognize how important this investment is, how successful these kids are, and it increases your brain power when you know more than one language, as many of you know. So I'm really thrilled that this district supports this. I'm going to throw this in here, we should be supporting CLI also.
I just want to thank you for that shout out to the celebration and point out that last year when we celebrated our first cohort who were in 8th grade, 49 of those students received college credit by taking the AP for Spanish 4, language and culture. And so that's another perk that our students get by participating.
Trustee Singh.
I am really proud that our school district is supporting dual language. We were given a couple of reports as well to review. Is this an appropriate time to ask some questions about that?
If you want to do that or follow up later, however you want to do that.
Okay, we can, either way, I would like to just mention a few things, if that's okay. I don't need a response right now, but I just want the public to know that as trustees, we actually read a lot of the stuff that comes our way with a critical eye as well. I'm also really super proud, but one of the things I want to share that the district has done is they have gone into, I think it was maybe 167 classrooms, different dual language classrooms throughout our school district. 167 classrooms across 30 elementary schools, and spent, I think, about 20 to 30 minutes in each of those classrooms to get a taste of what was happening. And so we have received a report that outlines, the findings from there. At some point, not right now, but I would be curious to get a little bit more information. First, besides this qualitative observation data, I'd be curious to know what other data Dr. Kaufman and his staff use to assess the level of implementation across the schools. The level of dual language implementation, we know that it varies dependent on a variety of factors. I'd be curious also to know what those factors are. Is it, if it's leadership, if it's a leadership factor, or if it's related to resources or whatever. The other thing I would be interested to know is, in the report it talks about more professional development for teachers who maybe are not teaching in a way that is optimal. And I would just be curious to know a little bit more about the professional development and also what other solutions there could be. Because I know somewhere in the report it said that some teachers were not able to demonstrate proficiency in a certain area, and the solution to that was having more professional development on it. But sometimes that's not the solution. Sometimes the solution might be having a teacher's aide or something else in the classroom. So I just would like to be more aware of the thought process behind that recommendation. But overall, I'm thrilled that our district does offer it. Like you said, we don't have to do this, but it is something that does keep students in the district. It attracts students to the district, and it's something that I'm so proud that we're investing in. So thank you.
Great. Trustee Owens.
Yes, thank you for doing this. I do believe that Austin ISD goes so far above and beyond what is required for us at the state level, and I do appreciate that work. I also do want people to realize how far we've come. When my children were in school, we had nothing like this anywhere. So the fact that it is growing and expanding and that you value it, and obviously our district leaders value this superpower for what it really is impressive. And so with that in mind, and in the conversation of equity, my part of town doesn't have any two-way dual language programs. So I do think that people need to realize there are areas of town where this is you've said it in one of your things, a desert, if you will. So I would love to see the plans moving forward and how we will bring about more equity and offering these kinds of services to our children. So I don't know what that looks like and how long that's going to take, but I'm excited for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustees, any other questions?
I do want to mention that when we look at language acquisition, it may be in some situations more of an immersion program or approach, such as we've done with DOS. And again, even with DOS, it just takes just a few people saying, "Yep, sign me up." And I know it's going to be hard, but once you hear students in 5th grade going into middle school and they're just speaking another language so naturally and not saying, oh, my Spanish isn't great, my English isn't great, my Mandarin isn't great, they're just very comfortable. That's what it should be like. And it just tells me our kids are ready and our parents want it. And so I agree with you, Trustee Ellens, but what a great opportunity to hear, when are we going to get it over here, rather than, yeah, no. It's just, I love hearing that, so I appreciate that feedback. Thank you.
Trustees, any other questions? Dr. Cruz, gracias por la presentación. The next item is under the superintendent's report is on school name changes. Do you want to, Dr. Cruz, or let's see, I'm going to open it up for motions. Trustee Teish, do you have a motion regarding the school name change?
Right.
Oh,
So-
I'm sorry, Trustee Teish, can you give me just one minute here? I also just wanted to note to the public, Trustee Cindy Anderson was here. She had a family emergency, so I just wanted to make sure you all knew that she's absent, but she's not here because of a family emergency that just happened. So I just wanted to note that. Trustee Tyson.
So just a few opening remarks before I make my motion. Number one, I was the one who decided to put it on the agenda for tonight. So I want everyone to be clear about that. And I'm not delaying anymore because I have finally heard enough from the community. And I feel like several of the trustees had an opportunity to hear directly from the current community at Lanier, the students and the staff. And these are student leaders, student council leaders, other leaders, and the department heads at Lanier. I also want to reiterate that I'm a product of AISD, also grades 6 through 12, and a product of Del Rio ISD, grades 1 through 5. So I got to grow up on the border and then come to Austin. Some of y'all don't know that, but now you do. I'm a firm believer in democracy and majority rules. I am not a sore loser. If I should happen to lose on my recommendation tonight, I am not a sore loser. I believe in democracy. We go forward. We move forward. But I want people to understand that with the decision that's made tonight, there are responsibilities that must be carried out. I am a public servant. I was elected by taxpayers to represent them in District 3 and actually the entire district. I have a fiscal responsibility to this district. And we are always talking on this board about how much money we don't have and how much money we need to save. This is a costly process for a school that's 58 years old. This is a brand. Lanier is a brand. Students were concerned that we were going to change their mascot and their colors. I said no, that was not part of the deal. But there's already talk at other schools about that possibility. I will leave that to other trustees to deal with. This trustee is not interested in changing the Vikings and the black and the gold. I want to thank the trustees who came out to Lanier on March the 11th to listen to the student leaders and to listen to the staff leaders. I hope they listened carefully. I respect my community. I know my community. I've lived in that community for over 30 years. I went to Lanier. I am part of the alumni of Lanier. We have teachers at Lanier who are alumni of Lanier, and they don't want the name changed. We have students who are very proud of the name Lanier. They don't care about Sydney. And it's never been about the Confederacy for them. And when I went to Lanier, I knew who Sidney Lanier was. We all learned about him. It didn't seem to bother us at the time because we were concerned about other things like, I don't know, getting into college. So I understand the concern on the part of some community leaders about the reasons for naming the schools Reagan and Lanier. I understand that completely. Don't sympathize with it at all. Don't think that those board members made an intelligent decision. Don't support the racism that was behind it. I want that to be clear also, because many people judge me without actually knowing me very well. And I think it's really not fair to judge people without knowing them and the full complexity of their background. So, with that, I am going to move that the board rename Sidney Lanier Early College High School to Lanier Early College High School.
Trustee Tice has made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
So Trustee Ellens has seconded. Is there a discussion on this item? Trustee Singh.
Okay, I've prepared a statement. As an at-large trustee, I feel that, and I know we're all representing all the schools, but, I do feel like this is also my high school. I do not know what it feels I don't know what it feels like to be a Black person in America. But I can observe, I can befriend Black people, I can read a variety of things that Black people write, understanding that this is not a homogenous community. And I recently read something that really struck with me. So regardless of how you feel about National Book Award winner Ta-Nehisi Coates, I want to share a quote with him that opened my eyes. He wrote, "Dear son, I write you in your 15th year. I'm writing you because this was the year you saw Eric Garner choked to death for selling cigarettes. Because you now know that Renisha McBride was shot for seeking help, that John Crawford was shot down for browsing in a department store. And you have seen men in uniform drive by and murder Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old child whom they were oath-bound to protect. And you have seen men in the same uniforms pummel Marlene Pinnock, someone's grandmother, on the side of the road. It does not matter if the destruction is the result of an unfortunate overreaction. It does not matter if it originates in a misunderstanding. You must understand that the sociology, the history, the economics, the graphs, the charts, the regressions all land with great violence upon the body." Now, how does this relate back to our current situation at Lanier High School? To me, naming a school after a Confederate soldier allows us to normalize and even celebrate violence against Black people. It does not matter to me that Lanier was just a lowly private and not a commanding officer. He was fighting to preserve slavery, and his post-war poetry was an attempt to romanticize the lost cause of the genteel and dignified South. Then in the 1960s, the Austin ISD School Board deliberately named a high school after Sidney Lanier in an attempt to protest forced integration. Most people, including many in the Lanier High School community, do not know these facts. I know this because just 2 weeks ago, I asked a classroom of extremely bright and active Lanier High School student leaders myself if they knew the background on Sidney Lanier. And only a small handful of students raised their hands. And interestingly to me, this was the same handful of students who also wanted to see a wholesale name change. In fact, some Lanier High School students have recently emailed the trustees, and I want to read what one of them wrote. This person wrote, "We want to be more informed. We have been out of the loop for too long and want an actual, real voice in this name change situation. Most of us at the school say they don't want the name change because they are not informed about the history, about the meetings, or about anything." So all of this leads me to 3 conclusions. One, and this has been stated by people here tonight, is education. I believe that the district and the campus leadership need to work together to explicitly educate all students, staff, and community members on who Sidney Lanier was, and understand the sanitized and glorified version of history that he represented, and why the 1960s Austin ISD School Board chose him as a namesake. This has not happened. This was not part of the district's name change work plan, and the community deserves to be fully informed. I'm confident that they will come to see the value of a name change, and if necessary, revisit the choices for names, and not view this name change as just another thing that is being forced upon them. The second conclusion is get bathroom doors. This has come up a lot. We did get an update today, I think, from, I believe it was from Dr. Shapiro, saying that many of the doors haven't been fixed, and maybe there's like 3 left that aren't. I don't know if that's the case. I haven't seen them with my own eyes, but it's kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Folks don't want to consider things like a name change until they get their basic needs met. So let's please make sure that as a district we do that. And the third point is really the most important one. We cannot change the name and think we have achieved equity or solved racism. The lack of AP Science courses at Lanier, the achievement gaps, despite teachers working their tails off, and the leadership transitions are more important than name changes and should continue being addressed. All these gears have got to turn together as part of a unified movement to support this amazing community of teachers and students.
Thank you. Trustee Matthias.
I'm happy to support the renaming of this school as Navarro High School. I'm happy to support the renaming of this school as Castañeda High School. I'm happy to support the renaming of this school as Trevino High School or any other name that the District 3 trustee brings forward. But since the District 3 trustee is bringing forward this name, I'm happy to support it on what I think are 3 possible conditions. Before that, simply a story. We renamed Northeast High School, and my mentee goes to Northeast High School, or what will soon be Northeast High School, so I had lunch with him, and shortly after our decision to rename the school, and I said, I understand a few people are upset by a decision that we may have made as a board. He said, we're all upset. There's something that I know rubbed certain persons the wrong way about what was perceived to be a top-down decision, something that they felt was imposed on them. And so as I think through the renaming of Lanier Early College High School, I'd like to think that, one, that this is in line with, as trustees, we talk about local control all the time, how it is that we would love local control from the state rather than having state legislators making decisions and imposing it on us, how it is that we want local control. So the question becomes, how do we give the people of communities like Lanier Early College High School a bit of local control? So 3 reasons for which I could support this at present is, one, that so much of a school's name contributes to a person's identity. Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, said that the most important thing that a person has is his or her name. And for a lot of the people who go to these schools, it's an important piece of their identity, that the name of that school, whether it's Reagan or Lanier or Johnston or so many other schools. So what I'd like to think is that this is, and that maybe this dovetails with what I heard Trustee Singh say, is that maybe this name change is just name change number 1 of at least 2 name changes for that school. It's a step while we continue to educate that community, with the hope that at least this step helps to disassociate that school from Sidney Lanier and the legacy that he represents, while the community continues to educate itself about him and what it is that the Confederacy represents. Number 2, I could support this if we consider this name change number 1 of, say, 4 name changes, because that is to say we have not yet had a conversation as a board about Bowie High School and Austin High School, and I will be happy to continue to raise the names of those schools so long as we're changing names in the Eastern Crescent. It seems that there's a certain justice issue that demands that we take a look at schools outside the Eastern Crescent as well, for those who are slave owners and or who advocated for slavery. And finally, we've given so much oxygen to the theme of school name changes as a board that I'm happy for us to find some way to move to other conversations like academic equity. We celebrated this evening National Merit Scholars, candidates for U.S. Presidential Scholars, and National Hispanic Scholars. My question for the board is, how many of the students that we celebrated this evening come from Lanier Early College High School? How many of the students that we celebrated this evening come from Reagan or Northeast High School? How many of the students that we celebrated this evening come from LBJ High School? How many of the students that we celebrated this evening come from Eastside Memorial High School? All 4 of those schools in the Eastern Crescent had not a single student come before this board to be recognized as a National Merit Scholar, a candidate for a U.S. Presidential Scholar, or a National Hispanic Scholar, and that is wrong. That is on us as a board of trustees. So if we can get beyond the issue of school names and to issues like that, this trustee will be extremely happy.
Thank you, Trustee Wagner, and then Trustee Ellens. And then
Well, first, before I begin my comments, I think I want to start by sharing what I said to Trustee Tyke at the end of our last board meeting. And the words that I shared with her were, I respect you, but on this issue, I cannot agree with you. And Trustee Tyke, you have done a tremendous amount of work in your community. I do not take away any of that from you. You've been a warrior for many social justice issues and a strong and fierce advocate for your community. But on this issue, I cannot support the motion that you bring forward. I feel that simply losing the name Sydney, taking a half step, is a missed opportunity to finally correct a wrong that has been in place in our district for decades. When I joined this board, I think the best piece of advice I was given was stop trying to make everybody happy and do the right thing and vote with your conscience. And tonight, I have to vote with my conscience, and my conscience tells me that having the names of Confederate heroes on the fronts of our schools is unconscionable. And I can't sit here and continue to perpetuate those pieces of systemic racism within our district, having the ability to sit here and cast a vote to eliminate them. I wish that we had a more well-guided effort in terms of bringing forward the name that we were galvanized around. With that said, I do understand that there are still background checks that would have to be conducted for Sergeant Juan Navarro to be able to be brought forward. I would support his name were it to be brought forward and subjected to those background checks, and would like to ask if that is something that the rest of the board wishes to entertain as well. I would also support the naming of Diana Castañeda as well. I think having the name of a strong Hispanic leader or son or daughter of our community would be a strong testament to the Lanier community and a strong name to have on the front of that school, and I would strongly support that. I do concur with the sentiments raised by Trustee Singh and Trustee Matthias regarding the work, the true work that needs to be done. I am not misguided to think that simply changing the name of a school is enough. It is so far from enough. It is a symbol. It is a symbol that needs to be changed, but the real work and the real change needs to be that a child does not have a predetermined outcome walking in the doors of our school simply because of their race. That is the change that needs to happen. And that's the change that I'll continue to fight for as long as I'm on this board.
Thank you, Trustee Wagner. Trustee Ellens, and then Trustee Tice. And then Trustee Ash.
She was right.
So thank you. I think I agree with pretty much everything people have said here tonight. I do want to remind everyone that the board that is sitting here is a different board than the one that originally approved changing the names of 5 schools. We have 3 new members who've not really had the opportunity to participate in the same deep discussions on this issue as did the other 6. So I do find it disturbing when people express disappointment in or accuse the board as a body corporate of moving too slowly just because one of us or one of you becomes impatient or feels strongly that the right answer is obvious. This isn't a math problem with one correct response. We hear and we have many different opinions, all of which are relevant and important to ponder as we make decisions that affect people's lives. I would also like to make it clear that the decision to change school names was originally based on the board's understanding that some Austin ISD schools had been previously named by school boards in domineering acts of defiance against the federal government's desegregation laws. So last year's vote created an opportunity to change a previously oppressive action into an action based on the needs and desires of the students at the school today. For me, at least, it was never intended as a vote of judgment against any person of the past using today's lens of good and evil. The last time I checked, being an elected official does not give me divine rights to judge the character of others, whether they are living today or in the past. Instead, I'm elected to represent people in a representative democratic system, elected by the people to represent their interests. Some seem to believe that our position empowers us to think for others or to impose upon them our own personal moral beliefs and values. But isn't that what happened with the original naming of some of these schools? Isn't that type of behavior what we are working so diligently to change? My journey has led me to listen to the 5 different communities currently inhabiting the schools in focus and to the 5 different trustees who directly represent those schools. In every case so far, the trustee elected from each school's area has brought forward a name that he or she believes represents the interests of that school's community, and the board has voted to support that trustee's motion. The name recommended tonight is being brought forward by the trustee elected to represent Sidney Lanier Early College High School. Despite what you may hear or believe, it does align with the district's current naming policy, CW Local, and it is overwhelmingly supported by the teachers and students who inhabit the school today. If it is ultimately supported by the board, Lanier will no longer be a name that is forced upon students in a show of defiance. By dropping the first name, it will no longer be a name voted on by a school board of the past. Instead, it will be a name that represents a change in governmental practice from one that oppresses to one that supports Lanier students themselves, most of whom are people of color, and who have asked us directly to keep the name Lanier so that, in their own words, they can embrace their own legacies and build their own futures. So we have a choice tonight. We can listen to the people most affected by this decision, who are asking us to change past authoritative bullying and truly hear them and their desire to drop the first name and keep the last. Or we can repeat history and once again force children to walk the halls of a school that is named in yet another act of power and dominance. My choice is to change adult behavior and support the students at Lanier.
Thank you, Trustee Ellens, Trustee Teich, and then Trustee Esch.
I appreciate all the words that have been said. There are contradictory messages that concern my community. It's okay to have Russell Lee. It's okay to have Lee Elementary, which was the first school that was changed. It's okay to have the Lee name out there. But it's not okay just to have Lanier. That's a contradictory message. The change did not emanate from the school community nor any of the other school communities that came forward to the board after Lee. Lee Elementary, the community there brought that change forward. None of the other communities brought the change forward, and they haven't done so, at least in Lanier's case, for 58 years. I'm going to go back to the cost. Many of the items that are going to be replaced at Lanier, and we're not talking band uniforms and, attrition, things wearing out and having to be replaced. Many of the items at Lanier were paid for through fundraisers by students and by faculty and by partners from the community. If the name is changed, I'm going to ask the community as a whole, sitting here and out in the audience, to walk their talk and to help replace everything that has the Lanier name on it. And the teachers at Lanier will be happy to let you know what those things are. Because if you are truly committed to helping Lanier, then you will be committed to paying for the items that have to be replaced, that the district doesn't normally replace. Okay? And that's exactly right, tax dollars. Your tax dollars are used to replace band uniforms, but your tax dollars are not used to replace whiteboards used by the ag department at Lanier High School. Those were raised by student fundraising, and they were also donated by partners. Those are the kinds of items that I want the community to step up to replace, should the vote go against the name Lanier Early College High School. I think it's really important that the community understand that this is a very complex issue. And once again, you don't change people's hearts and minds by changing names.
Thank you, Trustee Teish. Trustee Ashe.
So I think the first thing that I can say, based upon all of the information, as I said at the work session, that I was listening and learning and have been doing so diligently, as we earlier acknowledged, having only sat on the dais for the last 3 months and inheriting this question. And the question isn't, are we going to rename Lanier? It's, what are we going to rename it to? The decision to rename it was made 12 months ago, or 14 months ago, I think, at this point. If nothing else, you can look at our public comment tonight to see the difficulty and how it feels to me a no-win situation, in that there were plenty of people that I have heard from, both through email, through sitting at Lanier and listening to the students and teachers, through public comment for multiple months, and meeting with CAC members at Lanier that tell me that no matter what name we choose, we will be upsetting and hurting, I don't want to say hurting, we'll be upsetting a large group of people. And the main thing that I keep looking at as I look around this dais is I see an incredible group of volunteers that sit on this dais and that only have one thing in mind, and that is that they want all students in AISD to have the best education possible with the world of possibilities at their feet. And what can we do to lift them up as best we can? I have looked at the policy, and I have tried to lean on that. And I also want to reiterate to the students, should any of the students be watching tonight, I said this because I actually heard a student say, "We're not a bad school." That was the words they said to me that just really hit home. And I had to stop that student and say, there's nobody who sits on this dais that thinks that any single person that walks in that school is a bad student or that this school is bad. Ultimately, the decision to rename was done in the hopes of lifting up out of what has been described as an act of defiance by decades ago boards, none of which us were sitting here to make that decision. So I also really appreciate very much the idea that Trustee Matthias came forward saying that maybe this is just the first step. And I would hope that we can continue to educate the Lanier community about the Lanier name and maybe bring them with us on this journey. And should they decide, as it says in policy, that they want us to come back and look at this again, maybe we could do that. That we could look at this as a first step and do this together, instead of what feels like to the people that I have spoken with, that we are pushing this down on them. And it feels even more down as I sit on this dais that is up. So I will be supporting Trustee Teich's motion as maybe a first step, in the hopes that everyone knows that this is just an incredibly difficult decision either way.
So, Trustee Teich, I'm going to ask if Trustee Anderson.
I respect your passion, Ann, but I cannot support this motion. I just cannot. I know what it's like to be an African American in this district as a former student who was a part of crosstown busing, who went to Lanier, who went to Austin High. I know my experience, so I just I'll just say to all of you that are in support, think about the message that you are sending. You say unintended consequences, that's going to be one of them. Think about the message you are sending. Thank you.
So Trustee Anderson, thank you, Trustee Anderson. Trustee, will you allow me to just make a statement from Trustee Cindy Anderson, and then I have some comments, and then allow you. So first, Trustee Anderson just sent me a note and wanted me to read this, so if you all will indulge me. This is from Trustee Cindy Anderson. I apologize for having to leave to address a medical emergency with my child. I want to express my support for renaming Lanier after Diana Castañeda as one of the 3 names brought forward by the Lanier CAC. Diana Castañeda was the first Latina trustee of the Austin ISD and a longtime civic activist. I also feel there is perhaps an opportunity for the CAC to consider naming a wing or other interior portion of the school after Juan Navarro. I would also like to mention that facility issues are primarily paid for with bonds and contingency dollars. Those issues are being addressed. Changing the name and cost associated with it doesn't preclude us from ensuring the campus facility is safe and well maintained. Both are important. So that ends her statement. I think, and just from my perspective, Trustee Taish, I think I'll reiterate what some of the other trustees have said. A lot of respect for you and your service. And I think that I am really appreciative of the board and its thoughtfulness and intentionalness around this issue, and how much it is an issue around everyone's voting their conscience. And so I think, as I mentioned during the Fulmore issue, that I would hope that we have more names that reflect the communities that we serve, including the majority of this school district. And so for that reason, and also, I would also just point out that in policy, it says that the board should have final authority and responsibility for the naming and renaming of district facilities. And I think that's what we're doing today, is taking ownership for that, voting our conscience and what we believe is the right thing to do. And with that said, I think for me, I'm going to be voting against the motion for Lanier, but I also appreciate all of the work that's been done. And last thing I'll say is I wish I would have been there to listen to the students. Unfortunately, I was in New York City reviewing the Harlem Children's Zone, and then at the National PTA Advocacy Conference. Otherwise, I would have been there. But I heard from the superintendent and a report back around what happened. So we appreciate your efforts. So Trustee Ty.
So I very much appreciate the respectfulness with which my board trustees are treating me. I think that's extremely important in a democracy, that we be civil and respectful to each other. A lot of good has come out of this whole process, and that pleases me probably the most out of everything. We are having conversations in this town that we haven't had before, and there's some pretty deep conversations and very emotional ones. And there are also conversations that are happening between black and brown people who have not gotten along in this city for a long time. And I've observed that. First, I observed them not getting along when I was substituting at Reagan, at Lanier, at LBJ. Those are conversations that need to be held also. There are conversations between immigrants and native-born people that need to be happening also. All those conversations are important so that we can all learn that the past is something we don't want to repeat. We don't want the oppression represented by the naming of these 2 schools, Reagan and Lanier, to be repeated. The other 2 schools were named at a time when the oppression was not, it was there, but it was not the same kind of defiance that was demonstrated by the boards of the 60s. So I appreciate that conversation. I will continue to say that this is a democracy and I respect the majority vote. I don't go on social media and I don't backbite and I don't point fingers and I don't judge people for their heartfelt beliefs. I expect the same treatment to be accorded to me and to the students, the black and brown students, and to the faculty of Lanier. And in some instances, that has not happened on social media, and I will not put up with that. That body of students and staff deserve the same respect for their opinions as those of you who don't share their opinions. So, I think we should just go ahead and call the vote.
So, I just want to give one more opportunity to any of our trustees, if they have any finals. But if she is, okay, so there's been a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion to change Sidney Lanier to high school to Lanier Early College High School, please, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay, all those against, please raise your right hand. So the vote is four votes for, 4 votes against, which means the motion fails. Is there another motion? Trustee Teish.
Well, there is. There's a plan B. I would like to move that Sidney Lanier Early College High School be renamed Juan Navarro Early College High School.
So is there a second for that, Trustee
I would
Wagner?
like to second it with a friendly amendment. And
Sure,
make a
you
friendly
wanna say it?
amendment.
Yeah.
The friendly amendment would be pending vetting of his name. To
I
follow,
agree with
policy.
I really don't agree with that. I think as Mr. Munoz, who is an LASA graduate, indicated, the fact that he served in our armed forces and died for this country is enough vetting for me. However, I'm one trustee, and I will acquiesce to, the friendly amendment, but it needs a second.
And the friendly amendment is merely to follow our policy to the letter. It's not to question Sergeant Navarro's standing or the vetting that was already done by the U.S. Army as to his character and background. It's simply to follow our policy to the letter.
It's the will of the board.
So Trustee Teish, just to clarify, you've made a motion to rename Lanier for Juan Navarro. You didn't accept the friendly amendment that Trustee Wagner did, so you're still waiting for a second. Is that clear? Okay.
I believe the procedure is there has to be a second to mine and there has to be a second to hers. So.
Well, no, there's nothing to the friendly. The amendment is either accepted or rejected by the person making the motion. And since you've
Well, since I'm a reasonable person, I'll go ahead and accept it.
Okay. So, is there a second to the motion with the amendment?
I'll second.
Okay, Trustee Anderson is there any discussion? Trustee Matthias?
No, could we simply clarify the process here? I
Sure.
thought that I heard a second with a friendly amendment. The friendly amendment was acceptable, so I'm presuming that the person who made the second is the one who was on record as seconding the motion.
So, let me ask Trustee Wagner if that is that what you intended to do?
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. So Trustee Teish has made a motion to rename Sidney Lanier for Juan Navarro. Trustee Wagner has seconded, subject to a friendly amendment, to follow the criteria required under our policy. And I think Trustee Teish has accepted that. So now it's open for discussion. So, Oscar, do you have a comment? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think that essentially what the board is considering is a contingency. That if the motion passes.
Mike, you have to turn your mic on, sorry.
Is that better? Well, to restate that, I think what the board is considering is a contingent motion. That is, that in the event that the board votes to approve the name change as proposed, that the name will go into effect subject to and contingent upon a clear background check, as set forth in your local policy. If the name is not for whatever reason clear, then that information gets presented back to the board for its reconsideration, its own interpretation of the decision and its local policy.
Can I just make a clarification there? Because I just want to make sure people understand when we say background check, what we're saying is that the criteria for the naming or renaming of a district facility shall include the following, and it is the criteria that we're trying to make sure that we follow around it. And so the criteria has all of the, if we want to use the word background, requirements of it. For example, the individual, and I'm just using this as an example, one of them says the individual may be living or if deceased, dead for at least 12 months prior to the submission of the individual's name for consideration by the board. However, the board may consider naming a facility at any time for an individual who served in the U.S. military and died in the line of duty. Right,
Well,
so that's one of them. Yep.
So I have to offer to the audience that we considered Juan Navarro as a name for Guerrero Thompson when I was on the board in 2012. And he was fully vetted at that time. And he meets the criteria just read by President Rodriguez. However, if I have board members who have any doubts, then I am a reasonable person and we can have the name further vetted. But I feel that he fits the criteria, and he did back in 2012, except for the fact, and I really hate saying this, that he had not been dead long enough. And I really regret having said that. But that was part of the criteria. So
Oscar, the one question I have for you is, thank you for clarifying that it's a contingent motion based on the review of the criteria, on all the criteria. But for the purposes of the audience, just so they know, it's still a legitimate legal motion that we're considering.
Absolutely. The board may go ahead and vote on that motion, subject to the name passing the background check. And what I'm referring to particularly is the criteria that's listed on the front page that speaks to criminal background checks, that speaks to other unlawful acts, just a complete vetting that the board has set forth as one of its objective criteria for making any determination for any person or organization that's considered whose name is considered to be used for a facility.
Right.
And so the process would be that upon a successful motion, the administration would conduct the remaining due diligence, and assuming that the due diligence comes back and everything is clear, then the name will change. If there is any questions in the background check, then that will be brought back to the board for its consideration of its decision.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. That's actually the 5th paragraph on the naming facilities policy, just so folks can follow along. And I'm following where you're going. Trustee Singh?
Thank you, Trustee Taish, for bringing forth this motion. I will support it. However, I do want to say I stand by what I said earlier about educating the community. Again, I don't want this to feel like we have that we're imposing this on a community that doesn't want it. So I'm just asking Dr. Cruz, what can we, as trustees, as a district, do to help the Lanier community, and for that matter, the Reagan community, transition to a name change and help minimize the discord that could be happening and the loss of empowerment. I want to make sure people don't feel like this is being done to them against their will, or that we're using our power in a way that's not right.
So, Trustee Anderson?
Mr. Register has volunteered himself to be on a committee to educate the students about the names. And he's patiently waiting to meet with us to talk about it, the process. So I would ask Dr. Cruz again to please reach out to him, because he's making himself available.
Trustee Ellens?
Couple questions. back in 2012, when this name came forward before, is there anyone, Dr. Cruz, who knows? I mean, I have a feeling it's one of the very first things that prevented the name from fully being vetted by the criteria, because the first bullet, it didn't meet. So does anybody know what was the name vetted?
I don't recall that information. We can look back into it. I'd rather that we actually have the documents that say what happened at that time. Just off memory, I can't do that, and I don't know that Renee, Mr. Tejas was here, or somebody that can speak to that as far as the actual document. So I just want to make sure the board has, like, it's in writing, and so we have that. We will certainly provide that for the board.
My other question is kind of in the vein of Trustee Singh's point. Trustee Tyke, do you know if this name was brought forward and discussed in this current round with Lanier?
Navarro? No, it was not.
It was not even brought forward?
No, it was not. Well, it was brought forward by Mr. Munoz, and I'm going to go back to the fact that this whole process was extremely flawed for Lanier, and that's another disturbing thing for me and the community. But Mr. Munoz was participating in the process once he found out about the process. But the CAC meetings were not announced widely to the public. I didn't even know about them until Mr. Munoz brought them to my attention, it's a whole other conversation. So I feel that since Sergeant Navarro was a student at Lanier, that he would be more welcome than North Central, which was another name proposed, or than Diana Castaneda, who is not associated with that community. They don't feel close to her. A laudable Hispanic leader, absolutely, but they do not feel close to her. She did not do anything at Lanier. She had no presence at Lanier. And so I think the students would be more amenable to one of their own having the name on the school. And that's my feeling. However, I am one trustee with one opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustees, any other questions? I'm looking over to see Trustee Anderson is off the dice. So if there are no other questions, having a motion and a second, all those in favor, please. Yeah, will you, yes, we're just going to pause for a minute here. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second to rename Sidney Lanier High School to Trustee Tice?
Juan Navarro Early College High School.
To Juan Navarro Early College High School. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Yeah. With the contingency that.
Yes, sir. That's what I was going to say.
we're
Just
gonna
that the
vet
motion
them.
be restated to
Sure.
actually reflect the amendment.
Sure. So there's a motion by Trustee Teish to rename Sidney Lanier High School to Juan Navarro Early College High School, contingent on a background check and review of the criteria in our policy. All those in favor? Trustee Teish, did you have a question?
I'm happy to share a comment before the vote.
Sure.
And that is simply the surprise both for the public but also of this Board of Trustees. I don't know if the officers would be willing to take up the issue so that we on the board and the public as well know the issues that are coming before us and what the possible votes may be. You know, the possible names for this, for instance, that is to say, it seems that the decisions like this have this sort of rushed feeling where the board didn't go in one direction, so suddenly we have to take action in another direction this evening, which I think is the unease that I'm feeling. So if I were to vote against this evening, it has nothing to do with anyone who's being proposed, except it's just this process to me it doesn't feel right. I'll rest.
Okay, thank you. So there has been a motion and a second. All those in favor?
CAC at Lanier voted it down. The CAC at Lanier voted the name down.
So
I think it should be vetted before it's done.
So there's a motion on the floor. So we need to either call the question, or if there's other trustees that have comments on it. No other, Trustee Wagner?
I was simply going to call the question.
Okay. So the question's been called. So there's a motion and a second for the motion, and I'll just restate it one more time just to be clear. So Trustee Chais has made a motion to change Sidney Lanier High School to the Juan Navarro Early College High School, contingent on the background check and review of the criteria based on our policy. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those against? And all those abstaining. Okay, so the motion passes 5-4, 2 against, and 1 abstaining. So, do I have a motion? Yes. Yep. So do I have that concludes the agenda, the posted agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Although having a motion, a second to adjourn the meeting, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes. Trustee Singh, did you raise your hand? You don't want to adjourn? Yeah. So the motion passes. I'm sorry. The motion the motion passes, and we are now adjourned at 10:10 p.m.
Ha ha ha!